longer saying that they lean Democrat or lean Republican. The uh, the um, the lean that they are having has nothing to do with party. Nobody's considering the party in the conversations. Only old school politicians are considering Republican or Democrat kind of questions. Now the unaffiliated and independent, they're almost predominantly purely of a non-political mindset. And when you ask the questions, you have to ask the questions in the right way. And here's one of the ways that the question is being asked, and this is how it's being answered is what are your priorities as unaffiliated and independents? What would you vote for? What would you vote against? Those are the kind of conversations that is happening within that demographic right now. And we're finding that when you take the conversations and you look at the sentences that they're saying, we would use the term conservative, but they would say, I am leaning towards supporting family values, to supporting parental authority, supporting children and protecting children. And so then when you ask questions like boys and girls sports, that's why the percentage is around 80 to 85% of the state of Colorado, that's everybody, is not okay with boys and girls sports because we're not asking, are you Democrat or Republican and which way do you lean? We're asking, do you support or not support this issue? And right now, unaffiliated and independent are leaning almost 80% toward family values or what we would consider conservatism. But if you use that word, it throws them off. And they're like, no, I'm not a conservative. But all of their focus and all of their support is in that direction. And by the way, the last numbers that we had, I am 49.5% of unaffiliated and independents say they're going to vote for me right now. Okay. Actually, that was a couple months ago. I think it's considerably higher now, but and we've got all this stuff on spreadsheets. Sometimes people ask for them. We'll send you stuff. We'll send you data points that show all this stuff if you need it. But it is interesting that for years and years and years, I've been hearing that the only way you can get unaffiliated and independent votes is if you move to the middle. Move to the middle. Well, we've been seeing Colorado Republicans move to the middle for 25 years, and we lose and we lose and we lose and we lose. We can't get any of the state seats. We were a super minority my first session. We're 2 votes over into just minority status. Now, our team has been working on this a long time. We strongly do believe that we're going to have. We were looking at 14 seats that we could flip, but we didn't. We don't have the right people. We don't have people running for 3 of those seats, and so we're looking at around 11 seats that we're going to flip in the House, which will give us the range that we need to accomplish pretty much everything we're going to accomplish. But not only am I going to be governor, but all 3 other state seats are going to be Republican if we do this right, if we don't just totally screw it up by whoever's running in those seats, because people are ready for leadership and they're ready to stop being lied to year after year after year. And that is strongly, strongly unaffiliated and independent numbers right there.
All right, I think what we're going to do is we're going to bounce between people that are sending messages and people who are raising their hands. So the next one will go up to you, Aaron. I'm sorry, Jaron Garcia.
Yeah, Jaron Garcia here from Colorado Springs. My question to Scott Bottoms and the Scott Bottoms campaign is, have they reached out to national podcasts such as PBD, Sean Ryan's show, stuff like that? Because they'll catch a lot of independents if they get onto stuff like that, because a lot of ex-military guys and people who pay attention to financial markets and all kinds of other things political will watch those shows. I watch those shows. I don't even watch the news. Like I get all my news from podcasts.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Well, I'll tell you something because what you're saying is actually more profound than maybe you think. So, everybody was so worried about the hit piece that Kyle Clark did on me on Channel 9, right? Now, since then, he no longer works at Channel 9. I wish I could somehow take the credit for that, but it had nothing to do with me. But here's the reality. You look at the numbers. You can find these numbers online. They're everywhere. Look at the numbers of Channel 9 News or Channel 7 News or Fox 31 or any of these things. Look at the numbers that they have in a single day, and look at podcast across the state of Colorado. And I'm just talking local Colorado podcasts right now because there's some good, strong ones. The podcasts are reaching more people than those TV news stations are. All right. And then when you step into the more of the national range, which we do have, I have been on a handful of national. I've been on a podcast with Newsmax, Todd Starnes. I've been on Cross Politic. I've been on a bunch of the outside the state, and we're always trying to get on more of those. Corey, that's running this, is part of our comms. He helps with this, and we've got another guy that works with us that his job is to get us on the national stuff. And the interesting thing we're finding is when I go on national podcasts or even TV news, I've been on Newsmax with some of that. They uncover more stuff and illuminate more stuff outside from the outside to inside Colorado than the news inside Colorado is doing. They hide stuff inside the state of Colorado and they keep it quiet. Some of the things that are happening in the House this session, the bills that we're passing, the laws that we're passing, this should be on everybody's front page. But the media hides it, and we're passing the worst bills in the entire United States right now in the House of Representatives, but our media is squashing it. And so podcasts, that's the key, and you're right. The way to do this is to get on more of the national ones. And I also really like to support the local ones too. We have some great local podcasters in Colorado that have really good followings, pretty strong followings. But great question. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So the one thing I would have to say is if you want to reach out to the PBD podcast, you literally can download their app Connect and pay $50 and they have to answer your message. You can reach out to Paul Bet David directly.
Cool. I did not know
The guy
that.
who runs the whole thing because he's actually that open. It's very cool. Tulsi Gabbard's on, like anybody you want to talk to that you want an answer from is on there.
Well, we will do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
I saw Corey making notes.
Yeah, sounds good. I was writing Mr. Garcia's name down. All right. In the messages, let's go to the next one was, in what ways do you stand out versus other Republican candidates? How do you differentiate yourself from them?
That's actually pretty easy. I just saw something online today that said, or maybe it was a thread, I don't remember, but something about, well, all the Republicans are saying the exact same thing. We're not saying the same thing. That's what makes us different. And that's what makes me the most different of all the rest of the Republicans. Here's a few things that make me very different. Day one, we're going to go after the Venezuelan cartel in Aurora. I'm not compromising on that. And other Republicans were saying, well, we'll try to do this or we'll try to work with these agents. No, these are foreign terrorist militia on our soil. The Constitution of Colorado, one of the three basic jobs of the governor is to defend the citizens of Colorado from foreign invaders. That doesn't mean Californians and Oklahomans or Texans or something. That means Venezuelan cartel. We will shut them down. And this is not going to be a pre-thing. It isn't going to go in and have discussions and all this. This is a well-armed militia, maybe armed as well or better than some of our police forces. In fact, probably most of them. This is a cartel. They are a drug cartel. We are going to go in there with the rules of engagement locked and loaded. We are going to take them out. That's one thing that makes me different. I will talk about that constantly. I also talk about the fact that we need to completely pardon Tina Peters. This isn't commute. All the rest of the Republicans are saying commute. None of them are saying pardon. That's what makes me different. Look on their every single Republican is saying commute. Commute means, well, she's still guilty, but we'll let her get out. That is not okay. She needs to be out right now. But when I become governor, I'm going to make sure that she is pardoned completely of everything. And then I'm also going to make sure she has the ability with state funds to sue the people that were involved in that, including judges. And I'm also very much in favor of judges not having immunity when it comes to these kind of things. When they go against law and it can be proven, and two other Democrat judges have already said that first Democrat judge was out of line and this was politically motivated and took away Tina's free speech. So if somebody says commute, we're not on the same page. I'm pardoned completely and let her sue. Another thing that is very different is I really do go after the issues when it comes to human trafficking. I've run many anti-human trafficking bills, parental consent bills, parental authority bills. All three of the ballot initiatives that are going to be going from Protect Kids Colorado, I ran all three of those as bills. this session to get the Democrats, and they all voted unanimously against all three of them, to get them on record saying no. And then we're going to help districts, representatives running in districts um, to use those to help them get elected in those particular arenas. I'm also very strongly about constitutional control. We're going to go back to the Constitution. You're not hearing other Republicans say that. We're going to go back to the rule of law and the Constitution. I will do that through Executive Order Day 1, constitutional, where that's how we're going to run the state is by the Constitution. And now the Democrats have to sue us, which they'll do, but we'll win those because it's Constitution. Okay. Another one is the budget. Republicans keep saying how that, and there's Senator Kirkmeyer said this, that the budget, that we have balanced the budget and this is a good budget. She just said this last week, as we are dealing with the budget right now. I have amendment after amendment after amendment I'm running these next few days because why? Our budget is broken, it's corrupt, it's a lie, it's a shell game, and our budget is, first, it's not balanced, and second, it is so massively corrupt. We took $13 million away from the deaf and blind community so we could pad the general fund. We were dealing with this today. $107 million that is going to be given to illegal immigrants so that they can use Medicaid, Medicare when they are illegally in this country and have no right to Medicaid and Medicare. But we're taking that away from people that need it, legitimate people that are on Medicaid, Medicare, and we're giving it to illegal immigrants. I could go all day on the budget. When somebody says our budget is balanced, they are full of it. It is not balanced. It is a lie. It is a shell game, and that's why I vote against it every single year.
Sorry about that. I muted myself. All right, Christina Mascarenas. I think I said that terribly.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Thank you. Hi, Scott. I'm Christina in Pueblo. I support you because when I ran for House District 46, I remember how kind you were to me when other representatives weren't. But my question is, so when it comes down to you and Bennett, how is Greg Lopez going to help or hurt? Who is he going to take votes away? How is your team going to overcome, I guess, Greg Lopez? I don't know how else to say it.
No,
Thank you.
You're phrasing it right. There's some interesting things going on there. So Greg is a friend of mine. I actually voted for him in the last governor race in the primary. Okay. In fact, I remind him all the time, I voted for him last time. He should vote for me this time, but he doesn't.
I voted for him and he's a great guy. I just am concerned.
He is a great guy, but this is really bothering me. And many people have talked to him about it. I've talked to him about it. He is going to hurt whoever the Republican nominee is. Now, I believe very strongly it's going to be me, but he is going to hurt the nominee. Now, here's the thing. He's only going to have about 1 or 2%. I'm going to have most of the Hispanic endorsements across the state. He's not going to have any. This is something that he keeps propagating, that he's saying that he's going to have all the Hispanics. He's not. I'm very strong with the Hispanic community, and I've already talked to the ones that are going to be endorsing me. At least some of them, they're going to be endorsing me. And so he's not going to have that, that big numbers. He might get to 3%. I don't think he will. With everything that we're seeing, he's going to be about 1 or 2%. But here's the problem. When we're needing 2 million votes, 2.5 million votes, 1 or 2% is a lot. And so I'm hoping that he drops out before we get to the general. He knows this. The reason he dropped out is because in all the forums we were doing, I was getting 80%. He was getting 1, 2, or 3%. And all of the other things and that was probably 7 or 8 different forums that we took straw polls. And he was always in that 3% or less. In any of the numbers that we see that we've been doing for the last 14 months across the state, he's never got above 10%. That's why he dropped out and went independent. The problem is those less than 10% are not just Republican numbers we've been looking at over the last 14 months. They're just statewide numbers. And so the only thing he can be is a spoiler, and he's not going to spoil anything for Bennett. It's going to be me, and it's going to hurt our numbers. I think we can rise above it and still win the general, even if he stays in. But man, it would sure be nicer if he would just drop out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christina. So the next one is, hey, Scott, could you please, if you could only share one or two things I need to know about you and your campaign, what would it be?
Let me limit it to two. That's tricky. Um, I will say this, and I'll back it up with a little story. When with me, you get exactly what you see. I'm not political one moment. In fact, you can ask anybody that has been in any of the churches I've pastored over the years. I'm always the same. I'm the same in the pulpit. I'm the same at the state house. I'm the same at home with my family and my kids. I'm the same. I don't spin things politically. I don't try to say them in such a way that garners some kind of support from that demographic at that time. And I had a guy. I did an interview with a guy at PBS. This was a handful of months ago. I did an interview with him, and he's a extreme left guy. I knew that going in. He's a black guy, and he works at PBS. And so all of those things are saying this might not be the most friendly of interviews. But when I got there, first I just really liked the guy, and he said right in the middle of the interview, about halfway through the interview, he said, I really didn't think I was going to like you. He said, but you're very likable, and I am very likable. But part of the reason is I'm just me. I'm always me. You can agree with what I'm saying or disagree. I'm still going to say what I believe, and I'm not going to try to spin that. And so after the show was over, I asked him.
Don't eat your bomb.
I said, why did you decide to interview me? I mean, he's very, very left. If you go to his website, everybody he interviews is extremely leftist, not even kind of sort of just progressive, but very, very leftist Marxist. And so I said, why did you decide to interview me? And he said two reasons, really. He said the first reason, he said, is that you're so far out in front of all the rest of the Republicans. He said, nobody's even close. He said, your numbers are actually in the same line with Senator Bennett right now. And I'm like, great. We already knew that. Our numbers are saying the same thing. That's why I'm saying we'll wait and see at Assembly. I know where we are. I'm not worried about it. I know where we are. But the thing that he said that was pretty important here is, to me, it was just personally for me. He said, the reason I decided to interview you is because I had Democrat senators and Democrat representatives saying I needed to interview you. And I said, well, that's strange because they hate me. And he says, well, they do hate you. He said, don't get that wrong. He said, but here's the biggest thing. He said, they respect you greatly. They said that of all of the Republicans on your side of the House, that you have the most integrity, the most of character, and that you will answer the question the way you really believe, and you won't spin it. You won't try to do anything else. And then he told me, he said, and during our entire interview, this was after the interview, he said, during that entire interview, he said, I could tell you were being totally honest and you were being totally you the whole time. And for me, that's the biggest thing with our campaign is I'm just me. I'm honest. This is who I am. And I say the second thing that I have been amazed at, this just blows my mind, is how many people across the state of Colorado are behind us and supporting me in this race. And I'm not just saying, hey, we're going to vote for you. They're telling me we're going to knock doors, we're going to pass out flowers, we'll make phone calls, we'll do anything that you want. We'll try to do this. That is very humbling to me. Okay, that's mind-boggling to me. But I do believe that kind of momentum, that kind of grassroots momentum really is going to secure this win for us at the end of the day. And I'm not saying at the primary, because I'm not worried. I don't take it for granted, but I'm not worried about our assembly and primary. I know where our numbers are, and I know I'm going to be the guy coming through the primary. I'm saying our $7 to $10 million is going to beat Bennett with his 40 to 50 million, probably 20 of that from Governor Polis. And the reason is because of this groundswell that we're seeing all over the state. It is phenomenal. It is amazing to me. So I would say those are the two big things.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go over here to the hand raised by Jimmy Alexander.
Hello, Scott. We sure appreciate all you do, and we're with you, and we know you're going to win. I just am really appreciative of how you stood up for life at the Governor's Forum in Elbert County. But I also wanted to ask you to just go ahead and bring out about how that you were talking about you had the discretion, and once you become the governor, you'll be able to utilize a lot of the funds that are being able to be utilized by the governor, a certain percentage, and I couldn't remember what you said, but a certain percentage of that for bills and issues and things that the conservative people in the state of Colorado want to utilize. So I'll let you just go ahead with that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. There are a lot of things that I want to get done. I need to get done as the governor. That so assuming we win 11, 12 seats, I think it'll be 11, could be 12, but let's say 11. Assuming we win those 11 seats in the House, we'll have the ability to accomplish some different things through legislation. The problem is we can't affect the big ones. And so, and this is like 2A, pro-life issues, all these kind of things. These are going to be difficult. Now, again, first thing I'm going to do through executive order is we're going to go back to the Constitution, and that will automatically stop anti-2A legislation because I'll just veto it. But even if I don't, it'll have to be constitutional or it'll be null and void. And so when it comes to how you affect things on a little bit governor only level, that's where right now our budget is 45 billion actually last year. So we've added to it this year, although supposedly it's balanced and we're not 1.5 billion in debt anymore. All that's a lie. We are still in debt. We're worse than 1.5 billion. But with all of that, our budget will probably be 46 and a half to 47 billion. That's billion with a B. When Governor Polis took office, it was 29 billion. That's 7 years. Well, 3.5% of the budget can be adjusted by the governor without legislative approval. So we have a lot of money that we can use and do things with that we won't need legislative approval. And then when you add that to the executive orders that we can accomplish, and hopefully we can get those voted in. Remember, executive order goes away the moment the new governor comes in, if they choose. And so we need to get those into statute. And then we also need to get these, and I'm going to be pushing for the entire 4 years and potentially 8 years. I'm governor to get ballot initiatives from the people that will constitutionalize some of these things that the Democrats just walk all over all the time. And so, yeah, we can do it through a budget. We can do it through a lot of things, but 3.5% of the budget was the number you're looking for.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm telling you, I know that you're just going to do excellent beyond measure. And we just are praying for you. Thank God for you. And we'll see you at Assembly. And we just agree everything's going to work out absolutely perfect. You're going to win with 70% in Jesus' name.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, Scott. The next question will be in the chat. And the question is from Vicky Ariati. How do you make the schools accountable as governor?
Well, there's already a cascade that is happening with the schools that is going to make this easier than, say, 6 or 7 years ago. Pre-COVID, it would have been much more difficult to be able to say and have the confidence I do in some of this. But the schools have been hurting themselves so greatly. There's so much grooming going on in the schools. There's so much stuff that is negative from the schools to parents to children that schools are, since COVID, schools are down 40%. That is huge. This is why, this would have been 2 years ago, they brought legislation in that said that we no longer count students just per student to determine state and federal funding, mostly state funding. What they're doing now is they're taking an aggregate and averaging that out over a period of years, and that's how they determine student funding now in the public and charter schools. Now, the reason they're doing that is because the numbers are so down that they know they'll lose literally millions, tens of millions of dollars across the state year after year into the school districts because the students are down. Where are they going? They're going to private schools. They're going to homeschooling. They're going to a lot of other options, online schooling. There's a bunch of things that are going on. And groups all over the United States are reaching into Colorado and making education possible without having to go directly through public schools. And so one of the biggest things is, and I say this all the time when I talk to school boards, school board presidents and parents that go to school board meetings and stuff like this, for ask for an audit of your school district's finances. Ask for a printout of the finances, and that can be digital also. But ask for the budget, the finances, and an audit of your school finances. And when they fight you on it, ask them why they're fighting you. Why do you not want the parents to know what you're spending? This is one of the biggest things. I think the front line right now in the state of Colorado is not me as a representative. Obviously, the front line would be, yes, governor, but that's if we do win this. But this front line right now is school boards across the entire state. It's school boards because that's where the grooming is happening. That's where the corruption is happening. That's where the lying is happening. That's where there's some very, very nefarious teachers and counselors. That's why Children's Hospital is being investigated by the DOJ for transgender therapies and surgeries and all that stuff, is because, and this was without parental knowledge. So if parents don't even know what's happening, how are these kids getting to the hospitals to have these therapies and everything else? It's because school district, teachers, counselors, they're the ones taking them to the hospitals. They're the ones the therapists are taking to the hospitals. So there's got to be a huge accountability for all of that. Now, I do also want to say there's a lot of most teachers are good teachers. Most counselors are good counselors. But the bad ones, they're really bad. And you'll see that in budgets. You'll see that in numbers. You'll see that in education values. Colorado is horrible when it comes to education. If you just casually like Google education, ranking of education for Colorado in the United States, we'll be in like the top 15 or 20 in the nation. The problem is that includes higher education. When you're Googling it or putting AI, asking AI, tell them to take out higher education. Immediately we drop. Tell them to assess reading scores across the United States for Colorado, math scores across, and we are in the lower 10th across the United States, and that is hidden every single year. Although we are number 9 or 10 right now across the United States for the extra money given to education every year. So we are crashing educationally, but we are one of the highest school districts in the entire state schools in the entire United States for adding more money to the budget for education every year. That is horrible.
All righty, Scott. So the next this is from Ivy Lou, and apologies if I got your name wrong. And Ivy's had her hand up. So Ivy, go ahead.
Hey, Scott. I just came off a Facebook thread, and I know I should probably stay off of it, but this one in particular is attacking your claims of numbers, numbers you're quoting, as far as percentages and stuff like that, and they're attacking you outright as a pastor and your church and so on. I didn't respond to it yet because I would probably get myself into trouble, but it's not even something worthwhile responding to.
And what are they saying I'm lying about?
That you're lying about the percentages of support you're getting, the percentage of delegates, and so on and so forth.
Well, like I said earlier, we'll know for sure in 5 days.
Everybody, somebody needs to mute themselves, please.
Andy, it looks like Andy Smith, please mute.
I got it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Corey.
We know what our numbers are. We know what our numbers have been for a long time. I'm not worried about that. It looks like Steve Lobby, you need to mute.
Got it.
We know where our numbers are. I just told you about the interviewer in Denver. Mm-hmm. He's the one who said the Democrat numbers were this. I didn't say that. He's the one who said I was polling the same or the numbers are the same. We don't, again, polling is not really what it used to be, but that I'm in the same arena as Senator Bennett. He's the one who said
Right.
that. We had a Democrat lobbyist come to us last year and said that the Democrats know they're going to lose all 4 state seats in this November. Guys, this is the numbers are out there. You have to look for them because people do hide them. And then some
Hmm.
people make fake numbers and say, well, this is where I am and this is where everybody else is. Okay, well, we'll just see. It's real
Okay.
simple. We know what our numbers are, and we know
Okay.
how we're going to come out at the assembly Saturday, and we know where we are with unaffiliated independents. We know where we are with the Hispanic community. We also know we need 350,000 Democrat votes from Denver to Fort Collins, including Boulder, and we're in the 200 to 250,000 range right now. And
Wow.
so yes, we need another 100,000 Democrat votes. But here's something also that's happening. Nobody asked this question, but I'll tell you anyway. This is something that we know is happening too, and this is anecdotal, really, from just traveling around the state so much. We know we need a certain amount of Democrat votes, right? But we assume that's going to be that I-25 corridor of Democrat votes. But in many of the events that we are doing across the state of Colorado, we're seeing Democrats. Now, this is what I would call maybe yellow dog Democrats. Maybe that's not the right term, but these are the older crowd that are in rural communities that just vote Democrat every year, no matter what. They just vote Democrat. But now this last year and a half to 2 years, we've had so many things like the transgender bill from last year, the transgender bill from this year, and then the legalized prostitution bill. Yes, it did get pushed off to the end of the calendar, but it still was brought up by Democrats. And then the economy, and then the crime and everything else. Democrats in rural communities all around the state of Colorado come out to us almost every single event that we do, and they will say, I'm a Democrat, I'm unaffiliated, whatever, and I'm going to vote for you. And this is why. And it's because our state is collapsing, not because there's potholes. Although I hate potholes, and I think everybody kind of claims wherever they live is the worst, but I think Colorado Springs could be the worst. Although I will say in Hugo County, that was pretty bad. Phillips County was pretty bad. But here's a reality. Democrats Democrats don't vote for a Republican because of the economy. They never have. 75, 80 years, never have. They'll complain about it and say things, but that's not why they vote for a Republican. They vote for a Republican every now and then because everything has gotten so bad and the Republican is such a good, strong leader that they can get behind him. And that's why Trump is president right now, by the way.
Mhm. Thank you.
All right. So the next, I also just really quickly want to respond to the digital thing. We'll have a video coming out soon that basically is just a very factual video that sort of highlights some things that happen in the digital world and that have happened recently that sort of, I think, will help answer some of the questions regarding what you're wondering about. So just like stay tuned for that. It's not like a hit piece or anything. It's just a very informative, it's a good video. So the next one is how do you respond to the fact, and this is from Mark Tisdale, how do you respond to the fact that Republicans have been losing elections by around 18 points since 2024 election? This is because the Republican Party has not been successful at reaching out to independents.
Yeah, I explained that a little bit already with the fact that we have not been reaching out to independents properly. So I do think we've been trying to reach independents, but I think we've been doing it wrong. And I've been shouting this from the rooftops. If we keep thinking the way we reach independence is be middle of the road, well, we've proven year after year that has been the strategy. That is the strategy. Go back in any year, in any election cycle in the last 20 years, and that's the exact same talking point over and over. That's exactly what everybody is said. I've had Republican leadership in this state say it to me. I've had caucus leadership in this state say it to me. Oh, every single year I've been a state representative. Well, we need to be more in the middle. Well, how many elections do you have to lose? How do you have to become so minuscule in the state verbal conversations until you say maybe that's not the answer? And so I strongly believe we could try conservatism once. It's never been tried. Not in the 30 years I've been in Colorado, it's not been tried. We could try conservatism this year, and we will because I'll be the guy that comes out of the primary, and I will show the state of Colorado. But I am as adamant about showing the regular Republican leadership that has been shouting move to the middle for so many years that when you don't move to the middle, you actually win the unaffiliated independent. That's what Trump did. Trump won that dynamic. And I'll tell you another dynamic is the demographic is the under 30 crowd. The under 30 crowd does not want you to move to the middle. They're wanting leadership. That's why they voted for Trump. They're wanting strong leadership, and they're wanting you to be a person of your word. So if you say I'm going to do something, then you do it. A lot of the Republican and Democrat leadership, when Trump went into Venezuela and got Maduro out of Venezuela, think about all of the leadership, politic leadership, Republican and Democrat. They were saying, "Oh, that was so mean. That was whatever." And Maduro basically he got online. He made a video and got online and said, "Okay, Trump, you want to come get me? Come get me." And Trump basically said, "Hold my beer," and dropped right down in the middle of that and pulled Maduro out of there. But you know what? The under 35 crowd, like at a 75, 80% number, said that they was the coolest thing that they were ever seen. They were so proud of their president. The unaffiliated independent crowd, they're moving to that conservative thought process. They were very strongly in favor, and even Democrats were in favor of Trump going and getting Maduro. But political leadership, there's your problem. It's always been the problem. It will always be the problem. Politicians cannot stand somebody like Trump that's a solid leader and will just do what he says. And guess what? I'm just like that. And that's why I'm going to get the votes of all of these unaffiliated independents, the younger crowd, the Hispanic crowd, all of this stuff.
All right. I'm having lighting issues. I'm sorry if I'm distracting. All right. Chris has his hand raised over there. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I did put it in the chat just in case, but Scott, are you going to help support bringing elections back to county and precinct control? Since 2010, we relinquished control to the state government, and the amount of ballots just being, the amount of illegal registrations of voters, all the state, all kinds of departments. There's even NGOs in Colorado that register people to vote illegally, and I hope your support will be a part of the movement that Dr. Doug Frank has been leading across the nation to get the local control back of our elections.
Yeah, great question, Chris. I've spent quite a bit of time with Dr. Frank. He's an amazing guy. First, the guy knows so much about all of this stuff, and some of this information that he gave me was showing how we actually have more people voting than we had registered voters that online to be, in general, to vote. So how does a state have more ballots cast than registered voters? It doesn't make sense. So this is some of the stuff that Dr. Frank talks about, and also Sean Smith. He's a genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. Here's some simple things that we have to do. You have to get away from mail-in balloting. You have to totally get rid of that. You know, President Carter and James Baker, back in the days, they're the ones who first started addressing mail-in balloting. They said mail-in balloting is a guarantee corruption starter. Okay, Jimmy Carter was a Democrat, one of the worst presidents ever, and he recognized that mail-in balloting was horrible. Okay, we've got to get away from that. It's got to be in-person ballot, in-person voting with IDs, all of this kind of stuff. Now, Dr. Frank is moving across the United States, but he's also moving across the state of Colorado, analyzing these different counties and how many extra people voted in the last two election cycles in counties that would normally have had, let's say, 30,000, 40,000 people vote. All of a sudden, they're up to 75, 80,000 people that voted overnight. That's not possible. And so there's so much. I would mess it up if I started trying to give all Dr. Frank's stats. But yeah, I've
Right.
spent some time with him. If you want to Google that, Google him and just look some stuff up. You will. It'll be like drinking from a fire hydrant. I mean, he knows his stuff. But here's the reality: our elections are corrupt. They are not the gold standard. Anybody says they are a gold standard are either blatantly complicit or they're just so ignorant to reality that they have not looked at any information out there. Our elections are horribly broken. We have to fix them. And we do that in-person balloting, ID, no mail-in balloting. When I'm governor, one of the first videos that we're going to put out is me cutting a drop box off the ground with a grinder. Just cut it off the ground and throw it in the weeds. Those things are so open to corruption and brokenness. And so there's a lot of other things that we have to do with our ballots. I mean, our elections. But here's the one that you actually mentioned, what I think is important, is these county clerks. 3 years ago, basically, the Secretary of State Griswold, she just took over the county clerks. They are elected people, elected by the people to do a job, which means they work for the people. They do not work for the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State coordinates with them for elections and things like this. But the local level is responsible for their elections. But Griswold broke the law, 3 different laws, and I have confronted her in person in SMART hearings, and she literally will not answer the question. One time she just got up and ran out of the room. I am not exaggerating that. It's on video. But here's the reality. She just co-opted the county clerks. So when I'm governor, we're going to say, no, let's go back to the Constitution and to the rule of law, which you broke in. And if she's still not in jail, I think we should have her put in jail at that point too. And I will lead the charge.
Excellent. All right, this question comes from Tammy, and it came via a direct message to me. And the question is, if Victor Marks were to get through the primary, would you endorse him?
Simple answer to that, no. Everything that I've seen right now, all of the stuff that's coming to surface, I will not endorse Victor Marks. Again, as a pastor, I was duped. He took advantage of my church. He takes advantage of a lot of other churches. And he makes millions and millions of dollars every year saying he's doing something that he is not. And that's not just from the information you have online. I have access to more information. And so, no, I won't. I'll endorse any of the other candidates, but I will not endorse Victor Marks, because when he actually becomes governor, well, he can't. If he gets through the primary, and we know this because Kyle Clark has already admitted this from Channel 9 News. Now, he's not at Channel 9, but Channel 7, Channel 9, they have all of the information, a lot of the information that shows his corruption. If he gets through the primary, the very next day, the media will take him out and we will not have a Republican candidate. I have no corruption or skeletons in my closet. I have zero. They've already tried. The biggest thing they had against me is that I am trying to uproot and get rid of pedophilia in the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. And everybody, including Republicans, came after me for that. And that will still come to light, what has happened there. But yeah, you got to be careful, because whatever Republican gets past the primary, the media is going to go after them. And we know with the Marks campaign, even if only half of it's true, the media has a lot of stuff that they're going to bury him in the first month. He just won't get past the first month. And I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm not going to endorse that. So then when it all goes south, and maybe even his ministry and some other things go south, and maybe even he goes to jail for some of this, and I've endorsed him, no, that's not going to happen.
Okay, so the next question, Carl Hoops, what are your plans to balance Colorado budget and to grow the economy, assuming you have the minority in the House and the Senate? What executive orders would you execute to start growing the economy?
Yeah, so some of the simple things. Now, I do believe we're going to have a lot more of those seats. I don't think it's going to be as blatant, but we're still going to be a minority, but maybe a few seats, or maybe 6 or 7 at the most. But assuming we're a minority, you still have to operate a certain way than if you're a majority. Here's the first thing. It is easy right now. We've been talking about this. I've got previous representatives and senators that are working with me on this that are going to help me with the budget. Day one, we're going to cut 10 billion with a B billion from the budget. That is not difficult to do. We are going to, and you can go after so many different things to do that with. I could explain a bunch of them, but we're going to cut the budget by 10 billion day one. And then we're going to immediately prop up again, put influence and prop up coal, oil, and gas. We're still a coal, oil, and gas state. We're going to add small nuclear reactors to that. But I think the small nuclear reactors need to be voted on at the local level. In other words, I don't think the state or the federal government can say, Montrose, you get a small nuclear reactor whether you want one or not. No, I think Montrose needs to vote on that, right? So, and I also think it needs to be voted on locally and built and funded and receipts locally. In other words, that local community will become very wealthy because of that small nuclear reactor, which is the way it should be. We also need to put our emphasis back on ranching and farming. That is the lifeblood of us as people in
Oil and
Colorado.
gas.
That's where we get that's where we get our food from. That's where we get, but we're not. That's the sad thing is over 70% of all of our ground beef that we consume in Colorado comes from Brazil. So you put all that together, oil, gas. Right now with natural gas, we distribute it, but we do not produce it. There's a company called Tallgrass that is putting a pipeline in from northern Nebraska, where Nebraska and Colorado, northeast Colorado, where Nebraska is. It comes all the way down. It'll go over to Weld County. It'll drop down to Fowler. Well, first, it'll also come to the airport in Colorado Springs and down to Fowler. And it's going to be put in as a two-way line. But right now, all we do is bring gas in. We buy it. Well, we need to be producing it. We should be producing all this stuff. And we also need to allow for the mining of minerals, rare earth minerals. Lithium, cobalt used to be mined, and uranium used to be mined in Colorado. They're not now. Lithium and cobalt, we could mine those again, bring battery builders for electric cars to the state of Colorado. We could be the wealthiest state in Colorado. In the United States. We could have a GDP as high or higher than California, and we don't because we stop all of this stuff. We need to let the people invest in their own resources again. The people, you want to drill for oil on your property? Fine, do it. I don't believe that wind and solar is ever going to get us there. I think that's it's being over subsidized by the federal and state government right now. It does not make one penny of profit. And so we've got to stop putting our resources into that. And also about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, President Trump said that he was going to, well, he did. He started a new program to put a lot of federal funds into brand new state-of-the-art coal electric plants across the entire United States. We need to start putting those in Colorado again. They've destroyed every one of them but one, and they've cut them down to the ground. In other words, they were scared to death somebody like me was going to get elected and start those coal plants up again. And so they just raised them to the ground. But Trump is giving federal funding for those, and I think we need to get on that and do coal again. All of that will make us a super wealthy state, extremely wealthy state. Now, we do have to cut taxes, and we do have to get rid of all the regulations. We're sixth most regulated state in the United States. But you put those things together, guys, this will revive rural communities. Think about putting a small nuclear reactor, say, out by Lyman. Think about the economic surge that comes all through the Front Range over there. Put something out in Cortez. Let them have this. Let them drill for oil. Let them, right north of that, let them dig for uranium again. Guys, we've got to stop all of the things that hinder our economy, and let's put it back in the right direction.
Fantastic answer. Thank you very much.
So for those of you that have joined recently, just know that if you would like to ask a question, you can raise your hand, or you can just put a question into the chat, and then we will get to you. But the next question, we've answered a couple of these already. You've been criticized as someone who has a low success rate with respect to having bills passed. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's an interesting thing that happens in the Capitol. Is they determine whether or not you're successful by passing bills. most people do not realize that we introduce over 700 bills a year. That means every one of you here, every citizen of Colorado, is going to have to be responsible for those. We vote in about 550 to 600 bills a year. I do not think passing bills is a sign of success. Plus, the Democrats made an agreement at the very beginning of my very first year. They said this publicly, that they will never pass a bill with my name on it. Why? Because I try to run bills that save children's lives, stop human trafficking, make parental consent for medical procedures, all those kind of things. Now, if you think that me not passing those bills is somehow my fault, that's crazy. I want to save kids' lives. I wanted to stop the transgender surgeries. I wanted to put pedophiles in jail for life. I wanted to get boys out of girls' sports. They voted unanimously against those bills. I even had a bill 2 years ago that was very different than any bill I've run. It had to do with bugs. And the Democrats came to me and said, "We like your bill. Pretty much every Democrat will vote for your bill, but you need to take your name off of it." Why? Because they made an agreement that they would not pass any bills with my name on it. It's called bulverism. Guys, to assume that passing bills means success, we just had 4 Republicans last week vote in favor of a anti-2A bill during seconds, and I called the question on it because I wanted them on record doing it, and then the next couple days they changed that when it came to thirds, but they voted against our Second Amendment rights. So do you think passing bills is the answer? Is that what it is? I don't believe so. And the Republicans, I mean, the Democrats won't let me pass a bill anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And until you spend a day with Scott, I'll just say, until you spend a full day going through it, it doesn't always make sense. But a lot of what can happen as well when you don't have the ability to pass bills is you can force the conversation. And so we would be happy to provide you with a list of the bills that Scott has forced the conversation to happen. He's forced the Democrats to show how extreme they are in order to use that as a tool to help show everybody just how far the Democratic Party has moved in the wrong direction. All right, so here we go. The next one is to a phone number. I don't see a name here. So you have said you will appeal to both Democrats in the House and the UA voters. Do you have any data or polls that demonstrate or demonstrably show how you will have success with those two groups? It's a question that comes up a lot.
Yeah, I think it's already come up 3 times in this setting. Yes, we have lots of numbers that show that. Again, I've also explained that there are Democrats that have told us about their numbers that are saying the exact same thing. Democrats are not. I'll give you a few examples. There's a Forbes magazine article that says, this was about 6 months ago, that said that Colorado is no longer a blue state. It can be won by a strong Republican gubernatorial candidate. You can look all this up. All of this is public. Denver posted a very similar article about 3 or 4 months before that, maybe about a year ago this time, when they said that Democrat leadership is underwater with Democrat voters. Wall Street Journal has done this, New York Times, LA Times, a few others I can't remember right now, that have said that they know that Democrats are going to vote for a Republican in November. And part of the reason with this is some of the reasons I've said is because they're looking for actual leadership. Also, their Democrat Party has left them. When you're making pedophilia, do you realize that pedophiles get off on probation in the state of Colorado almost 90% of the time? We tried to pass a law 3 years in a row to give them 4 years mandatory sentence, and the Democrats voted unanimously against it. Unanimously. Okay, this party, the Democrat Party, is the party of human trafficking, is the party of protecting pedophiles, is the party of destroying lives, killing babies, all of this kind of stuff. The Democrat Party is not the Democrat of JFK. It is the Party that kills Charlie Kirk. That's the Democrat Party of today. And the average Democrat voter is not okay with that. They're pulling away from it. And there's tons of stuff online. You can look and find this. This is not me just speaking in hyperbole. There's tons of stats, and we have our own stats and stuff for this too. And again, The reason the Democrats keep saying the things they're saying is because they have their numbers too. The real clue here is the Forbes magazine article. The last two lines of the article said that this was a shot across the bow to the Democrat leadership in Colorado. Now, this is an outside Colorado group, a very liberal magazine, Forbes magazine, and they are saying to the Democrat leadership in Colorado, this is a shot across the bow. Wake up. You've lost your Democrat base. You are going to lose major elections in this election cycle. You better wake up and stop being so leftist and stop being so Marxist. That was 6 months ago. How did they respond? They're passing even more leftist and Marxist bills this session. I could spend half a day talking about all the bills that they're passing and why they're passing them. So all of the numbers are there. There's also the anecdotal stuff. There's the fact that Democrats are pulling away unaffiliated, all this other kind of stuff. Are you talking, Corey?
I was just practicing, so it was perfect. All right, so there's some people that have sent some follow-up questions. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the people that are asking for the first time, and then we'll go back through. I know Scott, and he'll answer absolutely any questions. So nothing's off the table. But the next question, what are your thoughts on the metro tax with no cap like Johnstown? What are your thoughts on the tax break for senior citizens?
Okay, so those are a couple different subjects. This is something that we're seeing. So we have been hundreds of millions to $1 billion plus in debt for the last 3 years. They've only talked about it the last 2 years, and they've really only talked about it this year because they say we're 1.5 billion in debt this year. The problem is we've been about that high all the last 3 years. But again, our budget's a lie. The whole thing is a joke, and they keep hiding it. 2 years ago, when they said we were 1.2 billion in debt and we balanced the budget, 30 days later, they said we were $800 million in debt again. So the budget's a joke. Okay. Now, with that, the budget this year is taking away, like it's going to take away. We were just looking at this today because it came through appropriations. I'm in appropriations. We spent, usually appropriations takes about 30 minutes. We spent a few hours going over bills that are for the budget Wednesday. And one of them is it's going to take like dental care out of seniors' benefits. You're going to get certain things that have been tax breaks for seniors right now. They're taking those away. They're taking them off the table, and they're taking benefits off the table too. And they're just taking them away, and there's nothing you can do about it. I would love to do something about it. I'm going to vote against these things. I'm going to run amendments against these things. There's 2 amendments I'm going to be running specifically for seniors in our budget. There's amendments I'm going to be running to try to stop the money that keeps going to illegal immigrants, hundreds of millions. I'm going to try to stop those, but I'm not going to get it done because I am one person, and even if you add all the Republicans together, we don't have enough to stop it this year. And you never know. You guys need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to a few things. Liberty Scorecard, that rates elected officials, representatives, senators according to a Liberty, which is a conservative libertarian approach. Also, Colorado Union of Taxpayers. This is the fiscal side, okay? I won the highest award that Colorado Union of Taxpayers gives out this last year. And it's interesting that some people that work with the budget was in the 50s and 60s. I was 91, I think, or 92%. And we've got Republicans that are in the 50s and 60s. Same with Liberty. They're in the 50s and 60s. Those scores are Fs. That means you're voting worse than the average Democrat. Okay. Also CPAC. I got a 97% lifetime conservative score from CPAC. Guys, these things make a difference. They are telling you how we're voting. You need to check on your local elected official, wherever you are right now. When we're done with this, you need to figure out who your elected officials. Go to Liberty Scorecard and look at what their score is and why their score is that way. Because that's the problem that we're having in the state is we can't even get Republicans to vote very strongly conservative. We can't get Republicans to vote fiscally conservative. They're just so liberal in so many different ways.
All righty, we're going to go to, I'm going to admit this person, and Linda K, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Can.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Scott. I've been behind you since I heard you were running, mainly because of your pro-life stand and that you are a current representative. And I appreciate the political experience, which a lot of my friends from church are Victor Marx supporters. And I've been telling them I think that your experience is more important, the political experience. So some people see that as bad. So how would you answer those who say you're just another politician?
Yeah,
Versus,
if somebody is using that kind of language, that I'm a politician. I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been a pastor for 35 years. That's who I am. That's what I have done. I realized that somebody has got to step up, and I couldn't just keep telling everybody else to step up. I had to do it myself. And here's the interesting thing. Now, there are people like Senator Kirkmeyer that really do know how the budget works and the capital works. And now she has said that the budget's balanced. I strongly disagree with her about that, but she knows how bills work. She knows how the capital works. She knows how all these things work. There are other candidates that don't. Mikesell has no clue, and you can tell in town halls that when he says things that he's going to do or what he doesn't know how the governor's office work or the House and the Senate. And the same with Victor Marx. I don't know for sure if Victor Marx knows how the government works or not because he's never come to any of the forums or the debates. He's never come to the conversations. But just the stuff I see online, it appears that he does not know how the government works, even how the elections work, how policy works, or any of these kind of things. Because you'll see somebody say something and you'll realize that's not how the process works. You can't if you don't know how bills work, how are you going to expect to work with the legislature? If you don't know how the difference between the Senate and the House, I guarantee if you ask some of those other candidates right now, they don't know the job of the Senate and they don't know the job of the House and they don't know the job of the governor's office. Here's something else that I have been doing. This started about I think January of last year, when we brought a company online with us to help us with the political process, everything that's involved. Corey is a result of that. Corey was working with them also, and now he works just for us. But for 8 months, every single week, for a couple hours a week, I was going to school to learn how to be a governor. This was out of a group out of Washington State that this is what they do. They teach senators and congressmen and governors how to do the job. And that's what I did every single week. And I already had 3.5 years under my belt. I knew the process, but I didn't want to just lean on the fact that what I knew was good enough. And so I went to school to be governor. We walked down through the federal constitution, state constitution, statutes, word by word, line by line, sometimes for hours to make sure that I knew exactly what this meant. When I say executive order, what does that mean? What can I do and what can I not do? I would say there's no other candidate in the race that has a clue compared to what I do when it comes to being a governor. And I'll even throw this in here. I don't even think Governor Polis knows how to be a governor as well as I do. It doesn't look like it from the things he says and does. And so, yeah, I'm extremely qualified. If somebody says that somehow being a politician, which I don't think I am, I'm a pastor that is doing this because it must be done. There's not other people that will stand up and be as strongly conservative as I have. And so that's why I did it. That's why I'm running for governor. I guess if somebody wants to call me a politician, I can't argue. I'm a representative.
okay, thanks. We'll see you Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a double-edged sword. All right. So this next question is, are there two bills this past session that have been passed that you would revoke? And if so, how would you go about doing that? And if not, what are your least favorite bills that you want to make sure that you can change from this last session?
Well, let me give you, I can't just say two, but let me give you 4 or 5 that all are this session. I'll try to limit. Let me see how much I can limit it. We did expand red flag laws. That is horribly unconstitutional, but Democrats do not care. Now school teachers can turn somebody in because they think that they're incompetent to have a gun and that they need to be some kind of mental health issues or whatever. That is egregious. That goes directly against federal and state constitution. And then let's see. Then the barrel law. We passed a law that to buy a gun barrel, you have to have FFL license, person sell it to you. That's so silly. We also passed this CBI bill that makes it more difficult to get background checks. That's one that I said that 4 Republicans actually voted for in the first stage. Um, I mean, we've also Senate Bill 18. We're still, I'm sorry, 81. We are taking away more parental authority and saying that judges can decide whether kids are transgender, and then if parents disagree with it, then they can go to jail for that. I mean, not jail. They have the kids taken away for that. We also passed a law this last week that from the Supreme Court ruling that said counselors can now counsel people according to the First Amendment the way that they want, including disagreeing with transgenderism. But we passed the bill last week that said that they can be sued for it. So I could spend a while going down some of these bills, but we just have some very horrible bills that the Democrats just keep passing.
All right. So this next question is there's a lot to it, but you know this topic very well. So the ultimate question, its bottom is, if elected, when is how we like to say it within the campaign, what changes will you make to transgender affirming care and kids in home versus schools? Pertaining to the laws, of course, the overreach about child abuse, affirming care, all that.
Yeah, this is just 2 bills that we dealt with just this last week. I mentioned one of them. But let me give you the foundation of why I answer what I answer, and so that you'll have the bigger picture. Okay, I believe that the transgender ideology, which is not the same thing as LGB. LGB is sexual preference. TQ plus is an ideology, and it's a Marxist type ideology that is very destructive. It preys on autistic kids primarily, but the transgender ideology is destructive to all kids. Kids that are boys that think they're girls, or boys that think they're boys. It is destructive to all children because it is an ideology that it's just controlling to the children, takes away free speech, and forces them into a grooming context where all of the emphasis, money, resources, everything is put behind a child to be groomed. But the moment that child starts detransitioning, in other words, they change their mind and say, oops, made a mistake, they're cast aside, made fun of, ridiculed online and everything. There's no money, there's no help, there's no resources. It's the opposite. This transgender ideology will be stopped when I am governor. We will have no DEI, no CRT, no SEL, and no grooming language whatsoever allowed by any state employee, any state agency, or anything. If you put a they, them on your email tag, you can be fired for that. And if you are part of the grooming process, in other words, teachers, counselors taking kids to Children's Hospital or Denver Health, Children's Hospital and Denver Health back in November came out with a statement that they were going to stop all transgender therapies, all of them. But people were telling me for months and months that I was making up the fact that Children's Hospital was being investigated for this stuff. And so we will stop all of that. One of the things I'm going to do, this is just a simple initiative that we're going to accomplish, Executive Order Day 1, is the first thing I just said, no DI, no CRT, no SEL, no grooming language from any state employee or any state agency or any group. Okay, and then since public school teachers are state employees, we're going to open a hotline straight to the governor's office that for children, school kids to call. And yes, parents can call, anybody can call, but specifically students in any school in the state of Colorado can call the governor's office directly, not a counselor or a principal or a therapist or somebody else, but they can call the governor's office directly, and that we will start an investigation because they will call and say, this teacher is grooming me, this counselor is grooming me. And not only will their job be in jeopardy, but we will also make sure if we find out that that's true, it's not going to be a witch hunt, it's going to be an investigation. But if we find out it's happening, they will lose their job and then potentially be indicted for pedophilia and trafficking and anything else that goes along in any of those arenas. Because right now, our kids are being horribly abused, attacked, and taken advantage of on all kinds of levels. And I want not the good guys. You won't have anything to worry about if you're not a groomer in the state of Colorado from me. But if you're a groomer and you're a teacher, counselor, administrator, if you're a doctor in a hospital and you're part of the issue, we're going to make sure you lose your job and you're going to go to jail for doing these surgeries on these kids. This is horrible. This is pedophilic, and we're going to stop it at the core. Those are some examples of some of the things I'm going to do with the transgender ideology. It will have no place in my administration. We'll have no place. We're not going after the homosexuals. We're not going after the gay, lesbian, any of that. We're not going after the LGBT community. That is a sexual preference. But when you start grooming kids, you better be scared to death of Governor Bottoms. You better be scared to death of me, because I will come right out after you.
All right, Scott. Okay, and I see you there with your hand up, Jaron, but we're going to get through the people that haven't asked yet first, okay? Scott's several of these questions have been answered, and so if you weren't here, go ahead and just like shoot a little note that says I didn't hear the answer. Just let me know, and then we'll make sure that we get back to that answer, okay? So so why don't we just go to this? So from what do you, Scott, I promise I can talk. Let me get articulate for a second. Scott, what kind of issues do you expect from the Bennett campaign?
Well, here's what he's already doing. I've done 2 governor forums that Republicans and Democrats were invited to, and I was the only Republican that showed up, and Attorney General Weiser was the only Democrat, and he really went after Bennett quite a bit in these settings. One was at a church in Denver. There's like 700 people there, and they were predominantly pro Weiser, but he went after Bennett because Bennett will not show up to any debate, any forum. He will not show up and answer questions. He won't take questions from the media, any of this kind of stuff. And I mean, Weiser just went at him over this, talking about how can you expect to run the state if you can't answer questions at an event like this? So we already know that Bennett's going to shy away from any kind of public thing. I'm going to try to debate him many times, as many times as we can, maybe 3 or 4 between the primary and the general, debate him on TV. I doubt he'll show up to those. He doesn't have the answers. He's not really done much as a senator. The only few things he's done is he's voted with Nancy Pelosi a few times that are actually hurt Colorado. He is in favor of some of the things that are destroying some of our rural communities, and specifically water rights. He has really gone after some of the farming community and some of the stuff that he's done. And if you look back far enough, he has a lot of stuff when he was back in education before he became a senator, that a lot of pretty nefarious stuff when it came with money and finances as a school superintendent, and working with the state board of education. There's a lot of things that he has very, very negative with. He doesn't really have a lot of positive things. And if you just put me in the same room with him, I'll be governor. I did have something here I noticed in the chat. A guy named Steve Lobby. He said that the FBI called bull on your story behind the scenes. Steve, you have no idea what you're talking about. I can give you names of the FBI that I'm working with here in Colorado. There's also FBI that I was working with in another state. It's kind of rude and crass just to say the FBI said something that they didn't. But I will pass this information on to the FBI and maybe let them give you a call and see how much you know about what the FBI is doing. I have been working with the FBI. There are pedophiles in our Senate and our House, in the governor's office. You should really think before you say something that strong, because that's a very strongly incorrect statement.
Okay, moving to the next question, which is fundraising. So what are your plans for fundraising after the assembly?
Well, after the assembly, fundraising always switches. You start going down to just the few candidates. Now, we know Senator Kirkmeyer is going to be on the ballot because she has petitioned on. She's the only one that has the signatures that can bypass the assembly and go to the primary. So we know Senator Kirkmeyer is going to be on the primary ballot. Unless anybody else besides me gets 30%, they won't be on the ballot. I'm going to get about 62 to 64%, best I can tell. So there's a good chance I'll be the only one coming out of assembly that actually has the assembly vote. Now that's different. There's a difference there when it comes to money. Once you come out of the assembly, specifically when you're the only one, your money starts going up quite a bit. We've got people all over the state. We've got people all over the country that have promised to give once we get out of the assembly. So it looks like at that point I will be the only one coming out of assembly, and then Senator Kirkmeyer will also be raising money. So you just switch gears and you start going after some of the bigger dollars across the state and across the United States to take over the state of Colorado, and we're really set up strongly to do that. So,
Great. Okay. Next question, we're going to go to you, Joel. Joe Hart, with your
and we
hand raised.
also, on top of that, also, Corey, we already have people that are starting to give into an IEC that is going to be standing with us in the campaign. You know, the kind of like the concept of Friends of Scott Bottoms. We also know that that's happening, and like I said, we have big donors that are waiting for the assembly. Everything is just so convoluted right now. Our state party, so I make phone calls a couple hours a day to try to raise money. One of the most common things I hear is, why would I give to the Republican Party in the state of Colorado right now? Our party is so broken. I agree with that. We're starting to kind of climb out of that in the next month and a half. We'll climb out of that and we'll see quite a bit of change in our state party. It doesn't mean we're all getting along yet together, but I am not broken. My campaign's not broken, and we're really set up to take some of the bigger money, and we're ready to. We know who they are, and we're ready to do that. Go ahead, Corey. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, we'll take big money any day. We're all for it.
Yep.
All right, Joel, go ahead. Joel Hart. All right.
You got to unmute, Joel.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump over to another question really quick while Joel gets to us. Stand by. We'll get back to that one. Do you have any plans to address delays, waste, and procedural violations in the courts?
Okay, so I'm doing something next week that has to do with this a little bit. I want to keep that one a little close to the chest right now, but you'll see. I think it'll happen Monday. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll just see. But we're going after corruption in the courts right now. There's some major corruption that's going on. There's a handful of people that I've been talking to quite a bit that includes this. Also, I've looked at some of the information that Joel Altman has as far as court corruption, and it looks like that's moving into the DOJ now. There's a lot of things that is going to blow open the corruption of a lot of stuff in the state of Colorado, and courts are part of that. You can't really separate some of this stuff in Colorado because everything in Colorado is Democrat controlled, so everything is linked together in the state of Colorado. The reason that Attorney General Weiser won't do certain things is because the courts are connected and they don't want him to. The reason we just passed through appropriations, it'll be on the floor Wednesday, but we just passed a bill through Appropriations Committee today to stop. There has been a 3-year fund set up for judicial investigation, and they basically just said, no, we're going to stop doing that, do away with that program. I think there's 60,000 in the fund right now, just in case something weird happens. But they don't want to do judicial investigations. They say they do, but they don't. When you take the program away and you take the hundreds of thousands of dollars there away, nobody wants to do anything about the corruption, judicial corruption. Our Supreme Court has been investigated in so many different ways in the state of Colorado, from sexual predators happening in the Supreme Court to all kinds of different things. We are going to get to the bottom of this. In fact, this is one of the things that I really want to work with Joel Altman quite a bit once I'm governor, is to have him get in there and just build a team and start rooting out that corruption. And I've already got other people doing it. I have some people that all they do right now is investigate corruption in the state of Colorado, and our corruption is as bad or worse than Minnesota's. In fact, it's already worse. We already have one level of corruption that we think is at the tune of about $33 billion of corruption. We've mentioned a couple of these things, but how you mention those are very important when it comes to the state, to investigation, and all this other kind of stuff. And so we're trying to get some of this stuff sent to the DOJ. And I've got people in Washington helping me do this right now. And so pretty excited at the momentum that we have with some of this stuff. We will root out the corruption in our courts and family courts in across the board. We're going to root out corruption no matter where it is. CDOT, Department of Education, we're going to root it out everywhere.
All right. Let's see, Raynette, we're going to get to you next, but first, Dennis, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Thank you. Well, I've got one thing on my mind, and that is my friend Tina Peters. And I know you've already addressed this, Scott, but some of the people have just joined, and I want them to hear your answer. And I want to recommend that you take a look at the capabilities of the Office of Governor as far as offering clemency to convicted criminals. Clemency includes either a commutation of the sentence, which would be a reduction, but the criminal would be, if a felon, would still remain a felon the rest of their lives. The other word that you use continually is pardon. But from my research, it looks like the governor of Colorado can only pardon a convicted criminal who's served out their entire sentence and then waited 10 more years before a governor can actually pardon them. So I really encourage you to make sure that you're using the right terminology and that you're not caught somehow otherwise, because I really want to see you succeed.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. I have looked at some of that stuff. I do think there's a place that pardon goes that can be actually applied to somebody in the middle of their sentencing, in the middle of their serving time. But I'll definitely check on that. But I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that all of her convictions are erased. Now, she is convicted of a misdemeanor too, and that actually plays into that subject, not a felony. But yeah, I'm going to do whatever I can. If somebody commutes her sentence, I'm going to do the best I can to completely eradicate that at every single level. And we're also going to work on the constitutionality of what the judge did. And as I said earlier, I also want to give her the ability to sue the state of Colorado, and whatever that means. We're looking at a few different ways, and we can work with her lawyers once we get to that point. But I'll tell you a third one that I've been saying at town halls, and so I'll say it here so there's no confusion. I am also going to call for a formal apology for all of these Republicans that have been attacking her and saying that she is guilty and that she was found guilty by a jury of her peers. That stuff is not true. She had 41 motions to try to bring evidence in to help her side, to help her defense. 41 motions. All 41 of them were kicked out and overturned by the judge. That is not a legitimate conviction of a jury of your peers. And I'm going to hold some Republicans accountable for this too, because they don't care enough about the rule of law. They don't care enough about Tina Peters. They don't care enough about what is right. They're doing these things for political expediency, and to me, it's horribly disgusting. I cannot stand what our side is doing to Tina, much less what Griswold. To me, the Republicans are just as bad as Griswold and Weiser on this. They're just as bad, and they're just as bad as that judge, and that's not okay. But I will check in again. I do know what you're talking about. I have seen that. I have seen some of that stuff having to do with pardon and clemency, so I'll just check into it again, see what it looks like.
I really would appreciate it, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And her former state or U.S. Congresswoman, Lauren Boebert, was right there amongst the other Republicans in that area that betrayed her. And I want the people at the assembly to know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is it always comes down to this for me. If people will just do their homework, they'll know which candidate to vote for. If they'll just do their homework. Don't just go on personality, or don't go on some kind of they've been in office this time, the length of time, or they do your homework. There's plenty of evidence out there. There's plenty of evidence out there to show you what I believe, what Senator Kirkmeyer believes, what Sheriff Mikesell believes, what Victor Marks believes, what Greg Lopez believes. Just do your homework.
All right. So the next question is a voter integrity question, and it's from Raynette. And she said that she's registered to vote in Colorado. Her husband and her son are both registered in other states. Yet for the past few years, they've been receiving mail-in ballots for both states. And they are not Democrats, and so they are not taking advantage of that. But they want to know, what will you do to address this issue, and whether or not the GOP has any hand in preventing the practice
Well,
of not being organized about the ballots?
so Trump's already started the process with some, trying to get the voter records from Secretary of State Griswold, and I hope she keeps fighting him, because she can be put in jail for this. And if she pushes Trump far enough, I think he will put her in jail for this. And I would love to see that. And so, this is the reality. Our voter rolls are so screwed up. The first thing I would do if I were you is I would take these ballots to the county clerk's office, take pictures of them, do all kinds of stuff, and take them to the county clerk's office and hold the county clerk responsible, because they're supposed to delete them from the rolls. And it's not like we haven't been saying this for 15 years in this state. Clean up the voter rolls. But these county clerks won't do it. And these are usually the same county clerks that are saying that we have the gold standard in our elections. And so go to the county clerks and hold it, and maybe even video the moment with them. Here's ballots that I've asked you to clean up for years and years, and they're not cleaned up. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And get them to say something there immediately. Unless your husband and son want to vote in this state and they don't vote in the other states. If they live here more than 6 months, 6 months plus 1 day, they can vote in this state. But if not, they need to be honest and not vote here, but make sure that it gets cleaned up at the county level. And then I would also, in fact, this is the way I would do it. This would be guaranteed a little bit more secure, is go on election day down to the polls, take those ballots with you, and see if they can vote with those ballots. Because there's a good chance somebody else is voting with those ballots from some other way. And if it comes up that they've already voted and you're holding the ballots in your hands, that's major proof of fraud right there, and in our gold standard of elections. So that's the way I would do it, is go down. And I would suggest that everybody vote in person, but take your mail-in ballot with you and get a new ballot so that they cannot use your mail-in ballot. And if they say you've already voted, boom, that's proof of corruption right there.
Okay, back to Joel's with us. Go ahead, Joel. Joel Hart.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Bottoms.
How are you, Joel?
At Assembly, we were chatting a little bit about this Islamic problem in the United States.
Yes, sir. I remember.
And I would like you to address this big group a little bit about what we were talking about, how Islam is not actually a religion. It's a form of government, and we really should take their tax benefits away from them and make it a taxable organization, and to stop the growth of these Islamic communities, and definitely Sharia law like Texas and Florida has. So I'll let you go from there.
Yeah, and Oklahoma has really done a great job with this too. They stopped mosque being built. And here's the thing: if you just look at this from a constitutional point of view, any religion has the right to build their religious facility, their church, or whatever it is. But what makes Islam different is, and specifically, so my district is the east side. My representative district is the east side of Colorado Springs, the whole east side of El Paso County, and the mosque, the biggest mosque in the state of Colorado, is going to be built right here in my district. Now, here's the thing with that. Does a religious group have the right to build a religious facility? Sure. But the problem with the mosque, and specifically this one, is it looks like it is being funded by the Muslim Brotherhood. That is a terrorist organization outside the United States with a definite intent to harm the United States. They cannot fund something constitutionally. It is illegal for them to fund building something like this in the state of Colorado. And so we need to stand against it on the funding side of it. We also need to stand against it on the Sharia law side. If they build this mosque, are they going to bring in Sharia law? Well, the answer is yes. They don't build mosque if they're not going to bring Sharia law in. Sharia law goes directly against our Constitution, and it must be stood against. As long as I am governor of the state of Colorado, we will not allow Sharia law to take 1 inch of foothold anywhere in the entire state because it is unconstitutional. It is anti-woman. It is anti-child. They believe that you can rape or murder women under certain circumstances, that you can rape kids. This is Sharia law. This is part of the Quranic development of what Sharia law is. And when I've even had people say, well, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what Islam is. I spent 4 years here in Colorado Springs, one day a month, every single month for 4 years, sitting with a Muslim imam from Pakistan that was writing a book. I have the book in my office. That's the only copy I have. You cannot have it, but you can look at it and I will show you every single chapter. This imam quotes me because he sent me every single chapter and I was the Christian response. Now, he never quoted me improperly. He was very respectful and quoted me right, but I would send him like 2 pages and he would put 3 sentences in the book. But I spent 4 years working with, studying with, talking with, helping write a book with a Muslim cleric, an imam from Pakistan. He went back to Pakistan, had the book published, sent his son a copy. His son brought me a copy here in Colorado Springs. So I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. And guys, we better stop Sharia law before it ever gets a foothold because it will destroy so many arenas of our society, so much of our freedoms, and it will destroy human lives, women and children strongest. It will kill these people, and we better stand against it.
Well, thank you for going on record with that because I know you did with me personally. One other thing, though, considering the fact that Islam actually is a form of government, can't we ban Islam because of a form of government that's against the United States government? That's illegal.
Yes, but I think the subject's a little bit bigger than that. And the reason is because you've got people all through the United States that consider themselves Muslims. They have never read the Quran. They don't even really know the difference between Sunni and apparently
Shia.
I don't either. Sunni and
Shia, I forget it all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's actually several different.
And they don't know what Sharia law is. They don't know any of this stuff. And so, but they consider themselves Muslim because they've seen some quotes and they like the idea and they think Islam's a peaceful religion. Okay, those people are not a threat. They just don't know any of it. And quite honestly, I've seen that in 35 years of ministry. I've seen people that say they're Christians and have never read the Bible. They've never prayed to Jesus. But they say they're Christians. And so we have that in Christianity. Every religion has that. But when you take the people that are truly devout in this, that's when Sharia law becomes an actual conversation. That's when, so the reason I'm saying that is you can't just ban Islam in a general sense because that's like banning Catholicism because they had the idea of the cross or the sword. Yes, but that was not all of Catholicism. And so you got to kind of balance that out. I think the people that are not legitimate Muslims, according to the Quran, I think it's kind of a faddish thing, or it's cool. Back in the 70s and 80s, it became kind of a cool thing when nobody really knew what it meant. Nobody really knew what it meant until they flew the planes into our towers. And then everybody started saying, "Oh, that's what it is." And that's what we have to stand against. So to just outlaw Islam in a general sense, I don't know how you could do that because we do believe in freedom of religion. We just cannot let the legal governmental context of Sharia law come to our state.
All right, and the next question, and Scott, this is a fun one for you because there's just a fun backstory. But the question is about chemtrails and your thoughts and what you will do about chemtrails.
Yeah, so I said, I'll just let everybody know so there's no confusion. I said at a governor's forum, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, that I didn't really think chemtrails were that big of a deal. Okay. Here's some things because about 1,000 people sent me videos and clips and editorials and everything after that. So I have done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of looking and all this kind of stuff. Here's where I'm at with chemtrails right now. And I think I'm on a progressive development of this. I think I'm still learning. Oh, I know I am on some of this. But we know the state of Colorado does cloud seeding. Okay, we can see the budget line item that says that they do this. All right, we know that that happens. We know that there are certain chemicals that are being sprayed in our air um, from airplanes. I don't know. I don't know if it's every single airplane that flies in the sky. I talk to pilots all the time, and they say they don't. It's not the plane. I'm talking commercial pilots. It's not the planes they're flying, unless it's somebody sneaking it in. And then you got to have the question of who is they and how are they doing this with FFA rules, and the pilots don't know or any of that kind of stuff. So, and then I talk to pilots that say yes, this is happening, and so I'm going to have to lean definitely toward this is an issue. Um, I don't even like the idea of cloud seeding, even though I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to say, hey, we're gonna try to make it rain. Um, I just am uncomfortable with trying to play with all of the things that is nature, and nature is so big, and thinking that we have this like this arrogant control over it kind of thing. I think we're goofing around when we're doing some of this stuff. So I don't even like the idea of cloud seeding. When I'm governor, I'm going to do the best I can to stop all of this kind of stuff. And hopefully by that time, I will know the complete ins and outs of all of the chemtrail stuff, and then I'll be able to combat it properly.
Thank you. That was from Angie. And the next question is from Stacy Brock. And Stacy's question has to do with faith and how you're going to balance being a minister and a governor. So the question is, how do you deal with it daily, working in the pit of vipers? And as governor, will that mean that you're going to step away from the pulpit?
Yeah, it does mean that. I am a pastor right now as a representative, but it is so very difficult. I don't think I could do it more. I don't think I could have done it longer than this year. It's starting to affect my church. I don't like that. We do have a good staff. We do have good leadership, and I have been able to do both. But here's part of the deal with me on a personal level is I go up to the Capitol, and I hate going up to that building. I hate debating the mutilation of children for hours. And then we're debating actually whether parents should know about it, not whether we should mutilate children. That's already a given in our state. And so just all this stuff, it's like this toxic waste pit that I walk into every single day. Going to do it again tomorrow. Going to do it again the next day. I hate it. Me preaching in my church on the weekend is actually my rejuvenation. I can't tell you how much my church means to me, and just being able to stand in front of them and just be able to preach, and I'll mention some little political things every now and then, but it's not that consuming in my messages and things. And I think people that go to my church would attest to that. But I do mention the stuff when it's specifically moral. But I am going to have to step away when I'm governor. 3 or 4 months ago, 6 or 8 months ago, we were talking, how could I do both? Because I had people telling me, oh, you can do both. People in my church telling me you can do both. guys, at the end of the day, I can't do both, and it's not fair to the church. I could be a preacher on the weekends, but that's not the same thing as being a pastor. And a pastor is a shepherd. They're there in everybody's lives constantly, and I can't do that to the church. We started the process about September of last year of handing all of this over and what a transition process looks like when you know a specific date that you're either the pastor or you're not the pastor. And we have a timeline that goes all the way through November 3rd. Actually, it goes through past that, but and we're walking through that timeline with our church every month. We're talking about it all the time. We just had our annual business meeting. We've got the big plan. I don't want to unfold it all to you here. It's big. It would get into weeds that most of you don't care about, but that's the biggest thing that I'm having a problem with about being governor is I have to leave my church, and that hurts me at a level that I can't describe.
Okay. The next question, Scott, is a direct message, and the question is about how does your wife feel about you running for governor, and what role does she play in the campaign?
Wow. My wife loves the fact that I'm running for governor. She gets so excited about the fact as a representative, the first 2 years I was a representative, she would watch the channel, the Colorado State channel, every day. Her and some of my staff, they would watch when we were debating, which I find very odd. I don't even like being in the room debating, much less watching it on TV. And they did this for a few years, and then I hired her last year as my aide. She was already doing a lot of the work, and so I hired her as my aide. She loves the stuff. She loves the process. She doesn't like the darkness and the evil. She gets worse about it than I do. Sometimes she just breaks into tears on some of the bills that we're doing. But my wife is the most competent person I've ever met in my life. She is the most driven, hardest working person I've ever met in my life. She's the least laziest person I've ever met in my life. It actually drives me crazy sometimes. She can't just stop and not do something. She's always typing, always on the computer, always filling this out or making this or doing. She is amazing. And so as for the campaign, her and Corey really do work well together and have been working a long time, basically just the two of them for a long time. And then we brought some more people onto the team in the last 3 or 4 months that are helping Corey and Linda. But Linda does all of the scheduling for the campaign. She loves this arena. There's times I'm not exaggerating. I'm in bed trying to go to sleep, and she's over there saying, "Okay, now you're up 3 points here. We built this thing over here," and I'm just like, "Go to bed." We're allowed to sleep during a campaign, and so she is an extremely hard worker. She is. I could not, I would not, and could not be doing this if it weren't for her.
Yes, I can vouch for that. Linda's she would be a good first lady of Colorado.
She
Can
does
you
have on that, Corey, also, although you didn't ask this, she already has some things that she really wants to do as first lady, and she's talked to me about some of these, and these are phenomenal dynamic things that are really going to help the state of Colorado. And I know Colorado doesn't have a tradition of the first ladies really jumping in and doing some really quality stuff. But she will do some amazing things, and she's already got some plans for that, specifically veterans stuff. She's got a few plans in that arena too.
I have no doubt. Can you speak to the way that bills are failing in vote, but are somehow being passed in committee? Can you stop that when you're governor, or do you have to create a law to prevent this in the future?
Okay,
Is that
so
maybe
that's
that's not worded correctly?
yeah, that question is backwards. Committee comes first. So when a bill is first introduced, it's given a number and it's given a committee it goes to. The best way to stop a bill is to stop it in committee because then it doesn't come to the floor unless it's a legitimate bill. And then sometimes committees are designed to kill bills like that. The committee that I sit on, it's State, Civic, Veterans, Military Affairs. That is the kill committee. If you don't want a bill to get to the floor, you send it to that committee, and that committee knows just kill it, right? Not all the time, but most of the time. So committee comes first. What happens is after committee, then it gets to the floor, and that's when the larger debate happens. And in the House, the larger debate in the House is like the Wild West. They'll pass anything. The worse the bill, the better. They love it. They love evil, evil, dark bills. They love them and they pass them. The Senate actually does fix some things, put some good amendments on sometimes, and every now and then they'll knock down a bill in the Senate. The Senate is a little more reasonable, but not totally because they still vote some very crazy stuff. So the question was a little confusing, but hopefully that helped. If it didn't, ask the question again in a different way, maybe.
Perfect. All right. So we did, to the person who asked this question, he did talk about where he thinks Victor Marks ranks, and feel very good. And we feel very confident in terms of a campaign. That's what Scott said. And if you want more clarity or more information on that, just hit us up and we'll get you messaged the more details. So another voter integrity question here. Okay, will you help bring elections back to county precinct control? Since 2010, the counties have relinquished control to the state. Voter rolls have swelled.
Corey, Jerron asked that question. I already answered that one.
Oh, my apologies. Okay. Here we go. Moving on. What about punishing state employees for grooming and hotline? So I think speaking maybe to the hotline you'd mentioned.
Yeah, I talked about that too.
Well, I've been too busy trying to make sure I'm on top of all these. All right. Tell me a time that you have failed. This is from Steve Lobby. Tell me a time that you have failed, and would you work to change, and what would you do to work or change why you had failed?
Is this in a general sense or specifically like as a representative, or
It's like a throw it out. I suppose the question goes to
like a resume question.
Yeah. So you're interviewing for governor. Tell
Okay.
me.
So I've made many, many mistakes over the years. This is one of the things as a pastor. I will throw this in my defense in the same sentence. When you've been a pastor for 35 years, you've made lots of mistakes, but apparently you've learned from enough of them that you have long tenure. Because one of the most difficult jobs in the entire United States is pastor. If you Google that right now, pastor will be, Google it from 5 or 6 different sources. Being a pastor will always be in the top 10 most difficult jobs in the United States, and most of the time it's in the top 5. Because the turnover rate is so high, because it's so difficult. People do come after you when you're a pastor for all kinds of reasons, and you can just make stuff up, and people will attack a pastor on that. Now, with that being said, I also have made some major mistakes. I've made mistakes in every arena of my life, my marriage, as a father, as a pastor. I've made mistakes as a representative. Most of these mistakes all fall into some basic categories. And I think this is general for everybody, but I'll use me. I'll isolate me. And that is when you let yourself get in the way. Pride, narcissism, arrogance, intimidation, fear, insecurities, when you let those things get in the way and those start helping you make decisions, you're going to make mistakes. If you can learn, and I believe there's a spiritual dynamic here that's most important. When you can learn to not make decisions based upon your return value or return value to you, instead of having the return value be to somebody else or to something else. Now, I believe there is still flaws within that context. I believe the best answer to this is, and this is what I try to do every single day. In fact, I was praying this all the way up to the Capitol this morning. God, help me not make decisions within myself. I don't want to make decisions based upon what I want or what I think. I don't want to make decisions based upon what makes me happy or is fulfilling to me. I want to make decisions that is based upon God's word, His Spirit in my life, and what is best for His will for Colorado. The Lord's Prayer says, Lord, I pray your will be done on earth as it is already written in heaven. That should be our personal prayer, all of us every single day. But that's a Romans 12 thing where it says that you become a living sacrifice. That you don't live by the whatever the world is telling you, but you live by and I believe for me it is the presence of the Lord and the power of the Holy Spirit in my life, that I try to live by what God is telling me rather than what I am trying to get done for me. That is a huge challenge. It will always be a huge challenge for any person that does that. But what that does is that cuts down on your mistakes, because you're not just learning from your mistakes in a natural sense, you're learning from your mistakes in a supernatural sense, which transcends you and transcends whatever you're trying to do, whatever job. For me, it's running for governor and being governor. I also don't want to become governor and then make a bunch of mistakes because I'm trying to design Colorado in my image or my thought process or my plans. I really want to submit to God on this, and try to reclaim Colorado. When I say Colorado for all Coloradans, I truly mean that for every single person. Well, the only way that I can properly do that is if I'm doing the best I can to listen to God on a regular basis. And so then my mistakes, which are many, become fewer and fewer theoretically over time. And I believe that has happened in my life.
All right, from Annie Annie McCarty, the state is strangling small businesses. What's your plan to protect small businesses in Colorado?
Well, I've been working with the first thing that I said was my energy economy thing, that all the stuff that I said there. But let me add this to it. I've been working with the chair of the Small Business Administration for Trump's administration for quite a long time now. And he and I have been working on a lot of stuff specifically for small business. We have some very intentional, specific things. Some of those I've already included into the stuff I have online, my economy and energy stuff. But here's one of the simple things: just get rid of the regulations. If you get rid of regulations, businesses can start again. Businesses can thrive again. We've lost 40% of all of our businesses since 2020, and everybody says, "Well, that's because of COVID and the pandemic and everything else." That's not really the right answer, because Texas opened earlier than we did. Florida opened early. Oklahoma opened. Tennessee. All of these states opened way earlier than we did, and their businesses thrived. And many of those states do not have a net loss of business since 2020. I just saw a graphic yesterday, and I saw it popped up again on another meme today, that showed the states that people are moving into and the states that people are moving out of. Colorado is one of the states that people are moving out of. 2025 was the first time in Colorado history that we had more people leave the state than we had coming in. Well, that includes businesses, business owners, that's everybody. That's not just somebody that works, at the 7-Eleven and decides to move to Oklahoma. That's somebody that potentially owns the 7-Eleven and moves to Oklahoma. And so we've got to take the regulations off. That's the first one. We've also got to work on the property tax. Property tax is killing businesses. It is destroying. I was at an event, this would have been a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, up in Golden, and it was at it was like a bar and grill, and so I'm speaking on one side. There's maybe 50 people there, and there's another side of the bar and grill that has people are playing pool and they're playing poker and all this other stuff over there. And pretty soon, some of those people from the table started coming over and listening to me, and then they're clapping, and then when it came to question and answer, they asked some questions, and then afterwards, this big crowd of people that were not part of our event, but were from the other side of the restaurant, they came over and started talking to me. Almost every one of them were Democrats. And one of the guys, two of the people owned that business we were sitting in. One of the ladies that was there was, she's a small business owner, but she also, I think, is like a ward commissioner down in Five Points, down in Denver, and she's a Democrat. And she was talking about this, and she wants me to come down there and talk to them about this, because I was talking about how if we get eliminate the property tax, or at least start off by just lowering it greatly for businesses and individuals, and getting the regulations off, businesses can thrive again. But she said the number one thing that's killing her businesses, and she owns 4 or 5 of them, is the property taxes. She can't keep up. And so we can fix this stuff pretty easily. And Democrats are ready for us to do this, by the way. Like I said, almost everybody, and they were all taking pictures with me and all this. And I'm like, you guys got to be careful. you're Democrats. If you get pictures taken with me, there's going to be people coming after you. But it was pretty encouraging to listen to them all, and they were all saying the same things. We can fix business. And by the way, this same small business guy I've been working with, he told me a few weeks ago. He said that he all he does is small business stuff, but every time he touches something, that corruption seems to pop up. And he's been in Minnesota for a while, and he says that when he touches something and it's corruption just explodes out of it, that he hands it off to Doge, and Doge starts taking care of it. And they've been working through Minnesota like crazy. And he told me a few weeks ago, he says, we're almost finished in Minnesota. And he said, we're coming to Colorado next, and we're going to start working on Colorado. Now, that's not Doge, that's a small business, but the Doge is connected to it because and I've already been feeding him a lot of this stuff that we are talking about earlier about the corruption stuff. He said, send me everything you got. We're going to work through this stuff, and we're going to help you fix and clean up Colorado.
All right, Scott. There's a couple questions on here, and really you can just speak to, generally speaking, what are your thoughts on Trump?
I really like Trump. I voted for Trump, and I think Trump is. I think that Trump is that leader our country has been waiting for, and a lot of people that voted for him did not vote for him just on policy. In fact, I would say a lot of people didn't vote for him on policy. But they knew he was a man of his word, and when he said he was going to do it, he's going to do it. Like Maduro that I was talking about earlier. I think Trump's an amazing guy. There's been some things that I don't agree with him on. I am glad that he is seeing the importance of certain countries around the world and calling them out, like China, like Russia, like Iran. But at the same time, he's not just bombing all these places. I mean, he has been bombing Iran, but I do believe in America first context. I really do. I do think there are times when you have to step in and help some countries that are being taken over by dictators and things like that. But at the end of the day, I really like what he's done. I like the fact that I know this makes me almost it's like makes me one of these bad guys, because most of the time when I hear people talk about Trump, they say, well, I like Trump except when he says mean things or he tweets or he does this kind of stuff. I got to be honest with you. I love it when he does that stuff. For the most part, I love it. There's very few things that I've seen him say that I'm just like, you shouldn't have said that. There is a few. But when he calls a reporter out right there on national television, I love that. Everybody in the country is wanting him to do that. He's the only president that has had the guts to do it. And I love it when he calls these people out. When he calls people out on a national stage, when he calls dictators out and shows them videos of their people being killed by the government and shows it to them on national television. I love that kind of stuff. And I just like the fact that when he says it, he does it. Even if I don't like everything he does, at least if he says it, he does it. And now we just need to start putting people in jail at the national level. We hadn't been doing that yet. And maybe that's part of the reason Bondi's moving on. Maybe somebody else can be put in there that can actually put somebody in jail.
Amen to that. Scott, why don't you just go over this one more time, because it's important and it's easy for you to run down, but it's a question for somebody that came in late, wanting to know what your day one priorities are. What are you going to do the first day as governor?
First day as governor. Now, if depending on what Tina Peters, where she is and what she's done, I'm going to let her out. Definitely day one. But day one, we're going to go back to the Constitution. We're not going to allow bills to be passed that are not constitutional. We're not going to let laws be enforced that are not constitutional. And by the way, on the side of this, I've already got a list of things, of categories that I'm going to veto. Any bill that attacks the Second Amendment, I'm going to veto it. Any bill that attacks parental authority, children's rights, I'm going to veto it. Any bill that directly attacks the rights of the people, I'm going to veto it. And there's a whole list. I'm probably going to be the vetoingest governor in the state of Colorado. But here's the thing. And I've had people say, well, then you won't get reelected. Okay, then I won't get reelected, but I will do what I said when I got there. And that's a big thing for me, is I'm not becoming governor so I can be reelected as governor. I'm becoming governor so we can reclaim Colorado. We're going to go back to the Constitution day one. We're going to fix a lot of this stuff day one. We're going to stop with all of the financial things that are destroying our state, and specifically starting with all the transgender surgery and abortion monies. We're going to figure out how to stop having the state pay for those things. We're going to immediately, I already mentioned some of the stuff with the DEI and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to immediately start doging the entire state. This is a day one thing. I've got a whole list of the first 100 days, and I've got them all being done within the first 45 minutes. We're gonna sign so many executive orders. I mean, literally, the moment I take oath of office, we're going to sit down and start signing, because the Democrats in the state of Colorado and the Democrats across the United States are not going to give me any kind of honeymoon period. And so we got to hit the ground running, like Trump did during his second term, or actually his third term, not his first term. And so that's what I'm learning from him on this. We're going to hit some really hard stuff really fast across the board.
All right, Scott. What is your perspective on medical autonomy?
Are you saying having to do with insurance or surgeries or what?
Um, I, I'm not saying it, but this is what I would think. I would think about your body, your choice, right? So there's the argument with when it comes to vaccines, and there's the argument, of course, with abortion.
Yeah, I do believe that every person has the right over their own body. Now, I am also saying this specifically as adults, because I think as children, I think the parents, they're the ones helping with this. There's some legality issues when it comes to children. But let's say 18 and above, your body. Okay. I believe you have the right to make your decisions for your body. I do believe that if it goes into a mental illness arena, that maybe you should have some help, and that people should recognize that. But I think you're in charge of your own body. If you don't want to take a vaccination, you don't have to. If you don't want to get the flu shot, you don't have to. If you don't want to go to the doctor, you don't have to, because you're in charge of your own body. Now, when you add another body to that, when you have another body inside of another human body, I don't believe you have the right to kill that baby. I don't believe that's a different body. That baby actually has DNA. And it's not the same as the moms or the dads. It's got moms and the dads included, but it's different DNA. It's a completely different human. That's how we know for sure when we're doing DNA tests whether somebody has committed a crime, is because their DNA is unique to them. That baby's DNA is unique to that baby. And so that means it's a different body. And so you don't have the right to kill that body. If you have the right to kill that body when it's 3 months old in the womb, then why can't you kill that body when it's 3 years old out of the womb? It's called the 14th Amendment and the Fifth Amendment and some other things, but that is a different human being. And so body autonomy, I believe that strongly. I believe part of the problem with our medical process and medical care in the United States is we've given our body autonomy over to insurance companies and over to doctors. And I think we need to bring the patient back to the seat and let them be the one that's in charge of their body, not the insurance companies, not the doctors. But that also includes little babies in the womb. And that also includes 3, 4-year-old kids that they start giving hormonal therapies, or 12-year-old girls that they give double mastectomies to, or 13-year-old boys that they cut genitals off of. Come on, that's not your body. That doctor has no right to do that to that child. Those parents have no right. That counselor, that teacher has no right to do that. And that 12-year-old definitely does not have the cognitive ability to make that decision for the rest of their life.
Okay, so we have gone through we've gone through the questions. There's been several questions that are on the same topic. So this would be a good time if you have a follow-up, or if you if you have another question, this would be a good time to ask it. But also if you have any follow-up questions or want information about anything that had been discussed already.
So Christina did have a question about Tabor. This is important. I do want to talk about this with Tabor. Day one of this session this year, the Speaker of the House got up. This is day one when she gives her plan for the House. What are we going to do this year? And she said in her speech that Tabor is a dilapidated, outdated, old law that needs to be done away with. Guys, Tabor is the only thing that has kept us from completely going bankrupt as a state. The reason that California can do all the things that they do and them not end up completely bankrupt is because their GDP is like the fifth highest in the entire world. Their GDP is larger than most countries. That's why they can continue to do the stupid things to do. Colorado, we don't have that luxury, that privilege. It is destroying us. If they take Tabor away, which by the way, 71% of Tabor right now, I mean 71% of all tax money right now goes around Tabor. It's illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's called fees, fines, special districts, tolls on your highways. When you have to pay a toll on your highway that was built by taxpayer money, that's another tax. And by the way, the toll going north on 25, that was fought for and secured by a Republican. That tollway, the one going north out of 25, I mean out of Denver, the one I just said was coming from Springs to Denver. The one going out of Denver north, that one was also that tollway, that highway was also secured by a Republican. These are just more taxes, and Tabor is systematically being attacked and torn down, and then you have some counties. Bruce, that is not constitutional. It is not constitutional. Tabor is in our constitution, and yet our lawmakers and our local officials even sometimes get caught up in it. But our lawmakers just go around Tabor all the time. They pass laws that are anti. We just this morning in appropriations, we passed a law to the floor to the budget that is going to allow a bill that had multiple tens of millions of dollars to go around Tabor. It said it in the bill, go around Tabor.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So we've got a few more in. I'm going to get to the hands, Angie, after this question. And it looks like I had missed one. It was a question about, well, the way it's worded is, why haven't you done anything about family court reform? So how about, what are your thoughts on family court reform? What have you done and what will you do?
Yeah, I already answered this to a great extent, but I'll hit some highlights. Family court is corrupt court. That's the one where I said the judges are playing God in these courts, and there's no appeal process to change that. There's no accountability process. I've been working with a guy named Carl Roberts that he's come up with 5 different initiatives. I'm working on all 5 of these. You also have to, when you talk about family courts, you have to also bring child protective services into it. Child protective services needs to be gutted and started over, maybe completely destroyed. We're constantly arresting people in child protective services that are caught up in pedophilia and caught up in child porn, and they are child protective services. That's scary because those are the people that are supposed to be rescuing the kids and put them in the right places. We've got 5 things that we're going to be doing for the family courts to attack the family courts. As a representative right now, I can't do anything. But as governor, we'll be able to do all of these things. And here's a couple examples. One is we have the cameras that were put in the family courts during COVID. We make sure that they go both ways. They're also archived and transcripted to hold the judges accountable. And people can also live stream in. You can do this without seeing the child's faces or any of that stuff. And all of that is done to hold the judges accountable. This is something that we're working hard at. We tried to run these as bills. They don't go anywhere. Democrats hate this kind of stuff. Another one is making sure that that when there are mistakes made in family court, that the parent that the mistakes were made against, and oftentimes these are intentional, that the restitution goes back to that parent that loses time or money or something in the process. We have 5 of those that are already set up and that we've been working on for a long time to try to be, and quite honestly, we have to just doge all the judges in family court. We got to get rid of a lot of these bad judges. And that's one of the things that the governor does have power to do.
All right, we've got 5 more questions, guys. The next one is Angie, who has her hand raised. So go ahead, Angie.
Hi, Scott. So I have a couple of concerns regarding APAC and our Congress and foreign lobbyists making decisions for American citizens. About 93% of our Congress, both Senate and House of Representatives, are receiving large amounts of money from APAC, which is influencing their decisions that they're voting on for all of the United States citizens. I'm sure that you've noticed the only time that Democrats and Republicans stand together on the floor is when Netanyahu is in the House. It's been long known to speak ill of Israel is to end your political career. And bills are being currently passed to criminalize small businesses or businesses boycotting Israel. I feel like there is a real problem with the occupation of our entire government by Israel. Can you please comment?
Yeah, to start off, I'm very much a pro-Israel person. Okay, that is pro-Jewish person. Although I'm a Christian, my my first part of my Bible is the Torah. It's Jewish. The Old Testament is Jewish, and so I'm very pro-Jewish in a spiritual sense and a religious sense. I do struggle sometimes with what I see the Jewish government do. It does concern me. I do believe that Iran should be bombed back into the Middle Ages. I have no problem with Iran. They're the bad guys over there. Um, I some of the stuff that I see when it comes to how the government of Israel does things, I don't agree with all of that kind of stuff. But to somehow lump the Jewish people in with that, so this is the same concept as Iran when it comes to most of the Iranians are not okay with what their government does. The regime, the Iranian regime, the Ayatollahs and the Islamic regime that took over um, Iran back in the 60s and 70s. I was alive in 1982 when all that stuff was going on with the bombing and then the Ayatollahs and all that stuff from about 82 to 85, 86. And you can't blame the Iranian people for that, although many of them are on the same page. Same way with Israel. There's a lot of good people in Israel that don't agree with everything that their government does. I don't agree with everything that the government of Israel does, but I can't go so far as to say that that makes the Israelis the bad guys. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily speaking about the people of Israel or the Jewish religion, more specifically regarding to APAC and ADL and the spying on American citizens and putting like the overtaking of literally all of the media, as well as like going back to religion. Obviously, there's different sects of religion, but a lot of it is Talmudic, which refers to anybody that isn't Jew as a goy. So there are some definite concerns, and I know that I'm not alone in this.
Right.
But you know, I'm also a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. In the Talmud, he is burning in hell. So you know, obviously, the people of Israel, just like the people of America, are much different than their government. But I do see that there is a huge lobby that is taking over our government.
Yeah, I do not like a lot of the things I see APAC do. I can't argue with that. That is legitimate. And I'll just throw this out here because I don't know how many people have processed this the way that I am. Maybe this is like the first time somebody's heard this, or maybe everybody here agrees with this. But my struggle with the whole Epstein stuff, releasing the files, and even part of the reason that Trump didn't release the files, I don't think Trump did not release those files because he's in the files in a bad way. They've come out and we know that he's not. So then my question would be, why did he not release them? And I think it involves some of the Jewish government and working with American government to use a lot of this information against people around the world, like CIA stuff and manipulation of governments and things like that. That's the only legitimate reason I can come up with why Trump was holding back on these files and even saying they didn't exist and things. I think it was direct involvement of the Jewish government. And so, yeah, I'm there with you on some things. Probably, I don't know that we would probably be eye to eye on all of it, but I think I'm there with you on a lot of it.
Thank you so much for your honesty. I really appreciate you answering that tough question.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. All right, Stacy Brock, go for it.
Hi, thank you, Scott. So initially I was going to have you, I had a kind of a second or a follow-up question. That's the wording on the one I said before about how you personally daily deal with what you've already been dealing with for 4 years now down at the Capitol, which you kind of already alluded to, I think, with the question on talking about the one time that you, or, you know, explaining one time that you failed. Because I think it's so relevant to how you would go about every moment of every day being governor of this state. However, then you were talking about judges, and that brings up, I think, a really good point. A lot of people struggle with trying to find information when it comes to voting on judges. Is there information out there? Is there a way we can get that kind of information? And would you also say that regardless of whether we vote to, what's the wording? When you vote for a judge?
Confirm?
Yes. To actually say, I don't want this judge there, if I do somehow find out they're a horrible judge, when we have the governor that we've had for the past 8 years, we would actually be shooting ourselves in the foot because they would then appoint maybe potentially somebody worse. Would you say we would need to wait until you get into office before we actually go after judges?
Yeah, that's actually the correct way to approach that conversation. Okay. Once I'm governor, there's a lot of different things we can do with judges. One of the things that I do want to do when it comes to judges is I want to put out I'll call it something like the governor's list or something for judges and rate the judges, good judges, bad judges, and have a reason why, kind of like our voter guides. Now, there are some places out there you can go online right now and you can find information on the judges when it comes vote time. They're not very easy to find. You have to really dig down. You have to AI like rating judges in Colorado on a scale or conservative scale or whatever the case is, right? So, but there is information. Right now, what I've been doing for the last handful of years is I've been voting no on all of the judges. The reason is because they're all appointed by Democrats, and most of them are appointed by Polis. And so even if there's every now and then maybe a okay-ish judge that gets kind of attacked in the process, well, okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm not trying to do that, but I'm going to assume overwhelmingly that if you just erased all of the judges right now, Polis can't appoint worse ones. It's almost impossible to do that. They're all bad. They're all Polis worse. And so once I'm governor, then we'll put some good judges and systematically go through all of the courts and put the judges where we can, conservative judges. The problem is we don't have a lot of conservative lawyers to bring into and conservative judges to move up into certain positions. We're going to have to work on that. But then I'll also put out a grade sheet for judges as a governor every year, and everybody will know at least what I think. It may not be what they think, but it'll be what I think, and we can hold some of these judges accountable, and maybe even get some of them voted out, and then I will remove some that I have the power to do that.
That is great. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like Zoom user. I didn't get your name yet, but go ahead. Go ahead, ma'am or sir. Zoom user. All right. There was just this, and this is the last one we have right now. So this is the last question, but there was
sorry,
a request
is that me?
Oh, there he is.
Sorry, was that,
I
did
think
you come
so,
to Zoom?
yes.
Yes, gosh,
Zoom,
thank
yeah.
you so much. First of all, my name is Danny Noonan. I'm a Garfield County Republican. I just wanted to say, I've obviously been here from the start. Apologies for my name not coming up. But I obviously have been approached by some of your people here locally and stuff, being a new voter. And I just wanted to say what a breath of fresh air you are, Scott.
Thank you.
And I just
Appreciate
wanted to just say thank you so much. I can hear that you wear it on your heart. And my question was, obviously we've got a foundation in Colorado, and obviously we've got representatives already that are Republican in the House. And I just wanted to just hear from yours how that support structure under what we already have in place here in Colorado, and what that looks like as a governor, and how obviously you're going to be representing all of us, and I can hear you the right man for the job, and how that represents under a current foundation of Republicans that are already in the House. Something with, being on a conversation with Heard the other day, one of the biggest ones was, you need to start changing things locally. And I know exactly what he means by that. We need to have someone in the House. We need to have someone that represents us in the House. We need to have people that represent us locally. That's people like myself. I guess that's people like my brothers and sisters locally, to support people like you. And I just wanted to just obviously hear from you how that structure is, or how you'll be working with that structure, or how you already support the structure that's already in place.
Yeah, that's so that's actually a pretty big that's a pretty big context, but it's very important what you're saying. It's probably way bigger than what you're processing from what Hurd said, but I do think he's right about this. So here's something that I have found. One of the things that pushed me, motivated me in the process of considering being a representative is that I see these people that campaign, and they're going to be, ABC in their campaign, and then when they get to the state house or to the federal capitol, they become XYZ. It's completely different. They vote different, they say different, they act different, and that has always driven me crazy. How you can be so strong and conservative in your campaign, then you get elected because of that, and then when you get to your office, you're completely the opposite. You're just squishy, and you don't stand for anything, and you vacillate, and so that has always been a big issue with me. But once I became a representative, it became a little clearer as to how and why that happens. I'm not justifying. I still think it's horrible, and I do confront people that are in elected office at our state level and at the federal level for these things, and I've confronted them regularly on this. Because if you say you're going to do something when you're campaigning, you better do it when you're elected. But the problem becomes is when you get into that office, it is so difficult to keep your wits about you, keep clear, and to stay strong in what you're trying to do. Now, I've been a pastor forever. That has contributed to me being able to understand how to stand strong in the middle of adversity, and to stay consistent in the middle of adversity. But I have watched people that are my friends that go into the office, and then pretty soon there's something different. And I've talked to them, and some of them that were kind of headed that way, me and some other representatives have pulled them back into the right space. And so I do think one of the jobs of people like you, we the people, your responsibility is to hold your elected officials accountable. It doesn't mean you're trying to catch them doing something wrong. What you're doing is you're just holding them accountable day after day after day for their votes. What are they doing? What are they saying? Are they being consistent? Are they doing what they said that they're going to do? Because most of them do not. Most, okay? Every now and then, some of them will actually stay consistent, but it is an uphill fight because you're catching it from the Democrats who are trying to cave you completely, and then you're catching it from the Republicans who are trying to get you to pass their bills because that's how they are seen as important, is passing a bill. And so they'll compromise and they'll get on a bill with a Democrat they shouldn't be on. They're getting paid for it. Their lobbyists are fluffing their pillows for them and making sure everything happens good for them. And I'm telling you, it's an evil, difficult place to step into. And you've got to support the good guys, but you also got to push the middle of the roaders back to being the good guys. The ones that just completely cave and go to the left, let them do it. They need to be voted out of office, but let them do it. That happens every single time of there's an election cycle, let those people do it, whether it be at school board or county commissioner, or city councils or mayors or representatives or senators or whatever. Okay. But you got to put your time and energy and resources into the ones that are doing the right thing and then helping them pick out certain people that can be developed and mentored. And I've done this with a handful of people in the 4 years I've been in the House. I've been successful at this. This has always been a big issue for me. And then bringing them along with, but we cannot do it without the people. We can't. I can shout from the rooftops all this stuff, but if people don't get motivated and vote and do things and run for offices and all this other stuff, it's like spitting in the wind. You're not really going to get anywhere with it. So great analysis, great understanding, and thank you for bringing that up.
All right, guys.
And just to return to that there, Scott, I just wanted to say, we lost Charlie Kirk, who preached and taught us God, country, family.
Right.
And the reason why it spread like bushfire was because we're all Christians. We live in Christian communities. We support Christians. And if you like what you're living in, it's generally because we live the Christian way of life and we live by those commandments. We live under them. All right. And, and seeing that brought so many people, including our youth, coming back towards something maybe that has been missed, but it's back. And I feel like just being with you tonight, I just feel like your voice and your heart, I can hear you the right man for the job. And I'll be on the floor for the first time this year. And I just wanted to say that it'll be easy to cast that vote for you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And let me add something to that with Charlie Kirk, because you're hitting on something pretty important. Part of what made Charlie Kirk so effective is he was speaking transcendent truth. That's one part of it. So it's not just, 2 + 2 = 4. He's speaking transcendent truth, which is you are here on this earth for a reason and purpose, and that God made you and created you. And he's speaking that on the college campuses, which are very vitriolic to that concept. But the reason he was so successful is not only did he speak transcendent truth, but he did it in the public square unashamedly with a commitment to that, a confidence that he knew he was speaking that truth. And that captures everybody, and it captured the younger generation. If you go off into the corner and you quietly speak truth to people that believe just like you do, society doesn't care about that, and they don't really respect that. This is one of the things that the church doesn't do well. We go behind our closed doors and we maybe speak truth. Some churches don't, but speak truth quietly behind our closed doors. People don't care if you do that, and they don't even really respect it because they assume you're saying things that you may not be. But when you come out in the public square like Charlie Kirk did, and he spoke that truth in front of thousands of people that potentially disagreed with him, and he spoke it with confidence, and he spoke it with kindness, and he spoke it with a revelatory explanation that often could not be argued with, people respect that, and they will respect the person even if they don't always agree with what they're saying, because there's not too many people in our society nowadays that'll step up and speak the truth in the public square like that. We're just so derided for that. We're attacked, and so people just don't do it. That's why I'll go down and I'll say something in the Capitol. I'll say something on a bill, and I'll get all of these emails for the next three or 4 days, couple of weeks. Thank you for saying that thing. To me, what I said down in that well was common sense. It's morality. It's intuitively, we all know that what I am saying is true, but nobody's doing that. And it makes me something different when, to me, I'm just speaking truth. I don't see me as being that much different, except that there's just not a lot of people doing it.
Thank you, Scott, for all of that, because everything you just said binds us all together as brothers and sisters. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we are going to do 2 more questions. And Carl, you have your hand up. So we're going to go to you next. All right. Because I promised this person we would get back to it. But first, I just want to say really quick that if you look in the chat, there's a invite for a in-person meet and greet if you want to chat with Scott on the evening of the 10th at the La Quinta Inn. And we'll be sending information to you about this, just so you know. But the question, one person just wanted you to dive a little bit deeper on this, which is your plan for affordable housing.
Yeah, okay. So this is a big problem in our state, and this is not as easy as a fix as some of the things I've talked about, but it can be fixed. Okay, again, we go back to the regulations. The regulations are causing a lot of the price increases when it comes to building houses. The red tape that people have to jump through, if you back up about 10 years, it would have cost for building a $400,000 house, it would have cost about $15,000 to $20,000 for all of the red tape, all of the stuff that you have to do, the permits, all the different things. Now that has almost tripled to the point where it's almost for the same $400,000 house, it's getting up toward the $85,000 to $90,000 per house. Okay. Lumber packages that used to be 35,000 are now 130,000. And a lot of that has to do with controls, prices, taxes, and regulation. It's not the actual lumber. And so a lot of the things that are happening, we just got to deregulate so much in the state of Colorado. We got to get rid of this. Let the builders build. Now, in the same way, we also need to let the county commissioners and the local city planners decide the planning and for that. The reason I say that is because the House passed a bill at the beginning of the session that said that county commissioners are no longer going to be in control of their own planning for counties over a certain amount of people. Well, why not? They were voted in by the people to do that very thing. But the state just says, no, we're going to take it from you. You can't do that anymore. And so we've got to stop all of that kind of stuff. Another thing that we've been doing, so we try to talk about affordable housing and starter homes and these kind of things. A lot of people don't know that this happened, but for 8 years in the state of Colorado, we did not build any townhomes or condos. And the reason that we didn't was because the legislature had passed so many laws making it so easy to sue that specific building niche. Okay. So when the builders know they're going to get sued, it was almost a guarantee. If you built a condo, you were going to be sued over something to do with how that condo was built because it made it so easy. The state legislature made it so easy. Now, they didn't get out there and brag about that, but they basically shut down an entire segment of housing development. So in other words, you have at the kind of the bottom level, you've got mobile homes, and then you got modular homes, and then you have condos and townhomes. These are all to be purchased, right? Not renting. That's a different context. And then you've got starter homes. Well, they took out one whole segment. For 8 years, we just started building these about a year and a half to 2 years ago in Colorado because some of our laws changed back. Well, that was a major context, but nobody talked about that in the affordable housing conversation. You took out that kind of that starter right before the starter home, and then they made it almost impossible because of all the regulation and how much it costs to build a starter home compared to the very next model up or the model above that. It did not benefit builders to build the starter homes. You needed to start around the $450,000 to $500,000 range for the builders to actually make money because of all the restrictions and regulations from the state of Colorado legislature. And so the biggest thing is we're going to get rid of all those regulations as much as we can. We're going to streamline building processes. We're going to streamline specifically the small builders and how they do that and give incentive to them instead of just all the mega builders, because the mega builders are the only ones that have been building because our laws have made it almost impossible for the smaller groups to build, or the niche home kind of builders, where you build that home and you sell that when you build the next one, that kind of thing. And so we can do this. It's going to be a little bit of a climb. We're also going to have to work on the property tax. My goal is to eventually do away with property tax altogether. We'll have to restructure the tax code because that's where municipalities, local districts get their money from, like police, fire, fire, school, water, those kind of things. But we just restructure the tax code, cut the taxes a lot, and we can actually get people back in homes. Very quality built homes in their price range for a decent price. It is doable, but we got a lot of work to do that.
All right. So, Carl, You got the floor, man.
Thank you. Representative Bottoms, people who are running for office, aspiring for a higher level of leadership, tend to emulate someone they respect and admire. I'd be interested to know if you're familiar with the history of Colorado governors, which ones you admire the most, and even more importantly, which current governors of other states do you respect, admire, and hope to learn from or get ideas from?
For the state of Colorado, you got to really go back quite a few years into the like the Lamb Love era. Uh, um, but even then, I wouldn't say I would emulate any of those. I would have to go outside the state of Colorado. If you look at some existing ones right now, DeSantis is pretty amazing. Abbott's been doing
Yes.
some good things. Abbott, every now and then, that's Texas, Governor Abbott's Texas. Every now and then he does something, and I'm just like, why did you do that? But overall, he seems to be doing well, specifically fighting against Sharia law, fighting against the border, some of those kind of things. If you go to historic people, one of my biggest heroes in the political arena ever is Rush Limbaugh. I stumbled across him when I was 21. I was looking for a different radio station, a different somebody, and I heard this guy. I'm like, who is this guy? And then within 15 minutes, I'm like, this guy is saying things I've never heard before, but I believe. And I became just, man, just a huge lifelong fan of Rush Limbaugh. Ronald Reagan is a huge hero of mine. I have every book ever written about him, every biography, everything I can find. I do that. Uh, I would have to go. I would have to go back to Lincoln before that. I think the four greatest presidents right now are Washington, Lincoln, Reagan, and Trump. I know I'm putting Trump in a category that maybe 20 years from now we'll go, oops, but I think 20 years from now we're gonna put him maybe even higher than Reagan.
I completely agree.
The
So
comms director agrees with that as well.
yeah,
Not that who cares, but I do.
I do have some guys that aren't really political, but they are part of the political context. Clarence Thomas is a huge hero of mine. I think that man is absolutely amazing. I love Scalia too within those
Yeah.
frameworks. Um, there's just been some quality people over the years. I love biographies and I love studying people, and so I love the life of Washington, including his presidential tenure. But you could just see God's hand was on Washington in a powerful way, and I appreciate that from a spiritual context.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody. I just want to let you know that I put my right next to Linda Bottom's face. I put my email. So if you have additional questions or comments, feel free just to send me an email, and then we'll make sure Scott gets back to you about that. And then the other is just note that on the 10th, prior to the big assembly meeting, there's going to be a meet and greet if you guys want to come in and speak personally. And Scott, if you have anything, last things that you want to say, I do want to say this really quick, as Scott goes from early in the morning. Today he was at the Capitol working on like budget stuff, comes home, does church stuff, comes here. So he's probably exhausted. But if you have any last things you want to say, feel free. And I'm going to put a picture for you guys to look at in the chat while Scott wraps it up.
Yeah, I can say without a doubt that this last weekend with Easter, Passover is really what it was. I love Easter weekend. I love Passover. It was very refreshing to me. I am very refreshed, although I had to go back today and it just sucks the life out of you. I'm very excited where we are. I'm very excited to get to the assembly and just see, it's I mean, I have my ideas of how it's going to go down, but we'll see when we get there. But I'm just excited to see everybody gather together in the state, all the delegates. It's awesome. It is awesome to be doing this. I've been running this race for 14 plus months now, and I'm loving it. I'm loving this. I'm loving meeting all of the people, meeting all of you guys. and looking forward to us all being together. Go to scottbottoms.com. You can get all kinds of information, videos and stats, and just anything you can imagine is there. And you can connect with us directly. You can email us, cell phone. There's a cell phone on our website. You can call us. I am very, very busy. There's no doubt about that, but I do try to get back and call every single person and email as many people as I can, partly just because I believe that's my responsibility and because I enjoy it. And so, guys, I definitely appreciate you listening. I like the hard questions. If you disagree with me, there's nothing wrong with that. You have the right to disagree and even to tell me about it. That doesn't intimidate me. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Hopefully, as many as you can. You can be with us at the reception on Friday ahead of time, and then we will see you at Assembly on Saturday. So thanks for hanging out.
Great. All right. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. We'll see you in
Thank
a
you.
week.
God bless you all.
Thank you. See
Thank
you in
you.
Pueblo.
Thank you very much. Good night.